Chapter 3871. Chapter 3871. Take you to the Patriarch 4. Chapter 3871. Take you to the Patriarch 4. Although Emperor Yan's symptoms were similar to a stroke, it wasn't as simple as that. Feng Wu had used her own potion. Of course, she wasn't going to tell anyone about it. She wanted to save herself the trouble and make a good impression on the king. Feng Wu knew that her sixth senior brother preferred a quiet environment. Now that the father and son were in the tower, he didn't even want to come out. Hence, she said to the king, "You're fine now. You can go back to the palace today." The prince was dumbfounded. So, since when did Feng Wu's words work so well for Patriarch Huyan? Was this girl even human? Was she that likable? Feng Wu looked at him, gave it some thought and said, "Follow me then." After that, she was ready to take the king there. The king felt uneasy. The patriarch doesn't like to see other people. Are you sure about that? The prince looked at his father and recalled how serious the latter usually looked. It was a stark contrast. Feng Wu nodded matter-of-factly. Of course. She knocked on the door. Patriarch Huyan said, "Come in." Feng Wu turned to the king. "I'll go in first. Please wait a moment." The king nodded. Not only was the patriarch a formidable cultivator, but he was also very perceptive. The king wanted to ask the patriarch about the heir to the throne. And that was also why Feng Wu had brought the king here. After all, Northern Yan was a major kingdom. If Princess Raoshi took the throne, she might abuse her power and turn the entire kingdom against Feng Wu, which would be a lot of trouble for the latter. Feng Wu knew that the grudge between her and Princess Raoshi would never be resolved. Therefore, she would never let Princess Raoshi take the throne. Moreover, to the current Feng Wu, that was a piece of cake. She went up to the patriarch and whispered something in his ear. Patriarch Huyan frowned a little. "Of course not. Why would I choose her? She's just a maid who cleans my floor." Feng Wu chuckled. She wondered how the princess would feel if she knew that she was only a hard-working maid to Patriarch Huyan. Feng Wu was glad that she could ruin Princess Raoshi's plan. Feng Wu asked, "What do you think of the eldest prince, Huyan Junshin?" Patriarch Huyan was confused. Feng Wu asked, "That's the young man who came to see me earlier." The patriarch asked Feng Wu, "What do you think of him?" Recalling her recent interactions with the prince, Feng Wu told the truth. "He's a warm and powerful man. He's calm and rational. I think he's a good candidate." Patriarch Huyan nodded, indicating that he understood. After sabotaging Princess Raoshi's future without hesitation, Feng Wu opened the door and welcomed the two men in. After all, it was a matter of the Northern Yan Kingdom. She left the room after showing them in and closed the door behind her. Although she didn't know what they talked about, Feng Wu knew that Patriarch Huyan would like the prince. As expected. Chapter 3872. Chapter 3872. A 1,000-year-old woman. Chapter 3872. A 1,000-year-old woman. The eldest prince came out first. Seeing Feng Wu cultivating in the stone room, he went up to her in a hurry. He was excited, but he didn't dare to disturb her, so he had to walk around her in circles. Feng Wu almost felt dizzy from his running around. She smiled wryly and asked, "What are you getting at?" Turning around, the prince saw that Feng Wu had opened her eyes. He ran to her side and sat down in front of her, looking very excited. "I've met the patriarch." The prince was excited. Feng Wu rolled her eyes. Was that supposed to be an impossible task? The prince said, "It's so hard to meet him. Look, even my father found it very difficult. If you hadn't spoken up for him, he probably wouldn't have been able to meet the patriarch this time. As for us princes and princesses, before, only Raoshi had spent time with him alone, and I only watched from afar. But this time, I'm sitting right opposite the patriarch and only a meter away from him." The prince was thrilled. "Do you know how excited I am now? No words can describe my feeling." He suddenly turned serious. "Xiao Wu, thank you. Thank you so much." Tears welled up in the prince's eyes as he spoke, and he sounded a little choked up, but more than that, he sounded aggrieved. Feng Wu looked at him in resignation. "What's there to cry about? You're a grown man." Wiping away his tears, the prince said excitedly. The patriarch patted me on the shoulder and said that he had faith in me. He said that he had faith in me. Xiaowu, what did that mean? Xiaowu looked at him in resignation. What do you think? There was a hopeful look in the prince's eyes. Do you think he thinks I'm better than Raoshi? Fengwu said. Of course. The prince asked. So, I'm more likely to win than Raoshi now. Fengwu said. That's an understatement. As long as the patriarch was around, the prince would definitely become the heir to the throne. That was what the prince wanted to hear. Thank you. Xiaowu, thank you. The prince grabbed Fengwu's hand and couldn't hide his excitement. Fengwu waved him off. Don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. However, the prince wiped away his tears and said seriously, one word from you is enough to change my life. Seeing the serious look on the crown prince's face, Fengwu became more serious as well. She said indifferently, actually, you'll still be the future heir to the throne if I don't speak up for you in front of your patriarch. After all, you've seen it yourself. Raoshi has been putting on an act this whole time, and your patriarch isn't behind her. However, the prince shook his head and said, it's not the same. She has been using the patriarch's fame for so many years, and it has always worked, because no one else can get in touch with the patriarch. If you hadn't brought me here, I wouldn't know anything, and neither would my father. Fengwu agreed with him. You owe me one then. I'll ask you to help me in return when I want it, Fengwu said casually. All right, the prince said generously. He had no idea what that favor would be. By the way, are you really? Looked at Fengwu in amazement. Are you really the patriarch's junior sister? Fengwu asked. Did your father tell you that? The prince said. Father also said that you must be a 1,000-year-old woman. Chapter 3873. Chapter 3873. Secret of Raoshi 1. Chapter 3873. Secret of Raoshi 1. Fengwu stared at him. What did you say? Seeing that Fengwu looked like she was going to cut someone up, the prince waved his hands. It was my father. I didn't say it. I really didn't, Fengwu snorted. The crown prince explained in a hurry. Well, you're the patriarch's junior sister, so you should be quite old. I think that's what my father thinks. Fengwu snorted again. The prince was confused. So, are you the patriarch's junior sister or the teenage girl of the Zhenwu Empire? Fengwu asked. Can't I be both? The prince said. How can you be both? How old is the patriarch? How old must his master be? How is that possible? Fengwu raised an eyebrow. Why isn't it possible? I'm right here, aren't I? The prince said. So you really are. You. Fengwu nodded. The prince looked shocked and frustrated. Fengwu glanced at him curiously. I understand that you're shocked, but why are you upset? The prince heaved a long sigh and sat down on a stone bench. Fengwu sat down next to him, rested her elbows on the stone table, and looked curiously at the crown prince. The prince sighed and said, the Zhenwu Empire's era has come. Fengwu asked curiously, what do you mean? The prince gave Fengwu a resentful look. Isn't it obvious? Jun Linyuan is a prominent figure in the Zhenwu Empire. Don't tell me you don't know what he's like. Fengwu cleared her throat. The prince said quietly, I was so arrogant when I was little that I wanted to compete with Jun Linyuan. I thought that I would be able to catch up with him if I worked as hard as I could. But as it turned out, I was left behind. Fengwu cleared her throat. The prince gave Fengwu another resentful look and said, Fine, I'll admit it. I'm not as good as him. But has the Zhenwu Empire been blessed by the gods? Why do they also have you? Fengwu wouldn't accept it. What about me? The more the prince said, the more frustrated he became. Don't you know what you're like? In terms of cultivation level, you're at the peak of the spiritual overlord stage. By the way, how old are you? Fengwu said. I'm yet to turn 15. The prince didn't want to talk to Fengwu anymore. You're not even 15 yet. My dear lady, you're not even 15 yet. How can you be so amazing? Not only are you at the peak of the spiritual overlord stage, but you're also so terrifying in refining weapons and medicines. What are the rest or a supposia to our? Feng Wu cleared her throat. Despite the prince's complaints, Feng Wu still felt a little satisfied. She couldn't let her imagination run wild. Feng Wu reminded herself. The prince didn't know her achievement in formations yet. The prince glanced at Feng Wu and said aggrievedly, "Do you know what's the most terrifying thing?" Feng Wu was confused. "What is it?" The prince said, "The most terrifying thing is that you and Jun Linyuan, the two most outstanding teenagers in the world, are almost husband and wife. If the two of you get married, no other countries will be your match." Feng Wu tried to deny it. "Well, it's not like that. Jun Linyuan and it's not what you think." Chapter 3874. Chapter 3874. Secret of Raoshi 2. Chapter 3874. Secret of Raoshi 2. The prince snorted. "It's not what I think. Is there something else? Are you not going to marry Jun Linyuan?" Feng Wu glanced at him. "I don't know if I'll marry Jun Linyuan, but why are you so concerned? Do you want to marry me or something?" Thump! What Feng Wu said almost frightened the prince to death. He fell off the chair and almost broke his leg. Feng Wu rolled her eyes at him. "Do you have to be so scared?" The prince wanted to cry. "Even my father addresses you as Aunt Master, okay?" Judging by their seniority, the prince really was supposed to call her grandma. Feng Wu chuckled. "Chen be a good girl. Say hello, and I'll give you a welcome gift." The prince wanted to hit someone. Just then, the king came out with Patriarch Huyen. He was surprised to see the prince chatting happily with Feng Wu. However, he soon greeted Feng Wu as well. Feng Wu nodded in return. She didn't try to be polite at all. The prince was amazed by how tough she was. Just then, the king threw a dirty look at the prince. "Shouldn't you be bowing to your senior now?" The prince was dumbfounded. Feng Wu chuckled. The king looked at Feng Wu in bewilderment, not knowing what she was laughing at. Feng Wu finally stopped laughing. Seeing the prince's flushed face, she wanted to laugh again. She could understand his feelings. Back in the shop when the first time the prince met her, she was just an ugly girl with no background. Later, she told him that she was Feng Wu. But even so, she was only a promising teenage girl in the Zhenwu Empire, whereas he was the eldest prince of Northern Yen. But now Feng Wu could only imagine how frustrated felt. Snee smiled at Tianyi King. "Junknan is Tianyi best. You knave to treat him well." "Yes, he's always been a nice kid." He was elated to hear Feng Wu's praise. However, he saw that the patriarch didn't look too happy and realized that he had been here for too long. Hence, he immediately led the prince out of the tower. Feng Wu saw them off. "Where's Raoshi?" the prince asked curiously. Feng Wu said, "She's never been qualified to go inside. She always leaves after she cleans the floor. That's why she's not here." Feng Wu noticed that the corner of the king's eyes twitched. Yes, the two of them went back to the palace. The study had been repaired, but some of the missing files weren't that easy to repair, especially some precious books on the shelf. The king was furious. "Get to the bottom of it." Before long, little Zhao came back and whispered something in the king's ear. The king was shocked and furious. He turned around and glared at the prince. Frightened by the look in his eyes, the crown prince dropped to his knees. "Father." Had his father found out about the mosquito burning down the study? That shouldn't be the case. The king only gave him one look before looking away. He waved at the prince and said, "You can leave now." The prince bowed respectfully before leaving the room, closing the door behind him. Chapter 3875. Chapter 3875. Secret of Raoshi 3. Chapter 3875. Secret of Raoshi 3. As soon as the prince left, the king lost his temper. That bastard! The prince's stomach lurched. Could it be that his father? The king went on. How dare she? Does she really think the patriarch cares that much about her? Hearing that, the prince was relieved and left in a hurry. According to Zhao, they had been able to control the young eunuch, who was the one who started the fire. They then traced it back to concubine Mei, and found out that Princess Rao had something to do with it. Find out everything. The king didn't want Princess Rao and the queen to have something to do with his illness. But if they did? The king clenched his fists. Meanwhile, the princess had no idea that the king was already suspecting her. She was happily preparing for her birthday party. It was the following day. When Princess Rao went to see the king, he was talking to the prince in the study. The king patted his son on the shoulder and said, "Join the Ministry of Revenue first and work hard. I'm not the only one watching you. The patriarch is watching you as well." The prince was thrilled. He knew that the patriarch must have taken his side when the king met him, so his father made this choice. It was all because of little Feng Wu. At the thought of that stunning face, the prince felt a warm sensation in his chest. "What are you thinking?" the king asked curiously. The prince said, "I'm thinking about Feng." He then explained, "I mean the patriarch's junior sister. Don't even think about it." Before he could finish, the king smacked him on the head. "You already know she's the patriarch's junior sister, and you're still thinking about her? Do you have a death wish?" Ahem. The prince was so frustrated that he almost choked on his own breath. He said hastily, "Father, I didn't mean it that way. I think it's all because of her recommendation that you're willing to see me. I'm so grateful." Only then did the king nod. "Befriending that senior lady is indeed an opportunity for you. Make good use of it. Understood?" The prince nodded immediately. Of course. However, the so-called senior lady, she wasn't 15 yet. He was about to explain to the king that Feng Wu was the girl of the Zhenhua Empire and Jun Lingyuan's fiancée. However, before he could say anything, he heard a voice outside. Zhao said, "Your Majesty, Her Majesty the Queen and Princess Rao are outside." Zhao was a smart man. Before, it was unclear who would take the throne, so he couldn't put his money on either side. However, now that he had investigated the burning of the imperial study and His Majesty's apoplexy, he knew everything. There was also the interaction between His Majesty and the prince. The two of them hadn't been like this before. Before, the prince would treat the king with great respect, but for a moment just now, little Zhao felt they were real father and son. To suppress the prince, Princess Rao and the queen did a lot of things to alienate the king and the prince, which created a big estrangement between them. But now, it seemed that the ice had broken. At that thought, Zhao smiled. Chapter 3876. Chapter 3876. Secret of Raoshi 4. Chapter 3876. Secret of Raoshi 4. It seemed that he would have to ask his pupil what happened in the tower these days. His pupil was none other than little Zhao himself. The king had no idea that Zhao had been thinking so much. Hearing that Princess Raoshi and the queen were here, he frowned and looked displeased. However, he quickly adjusted his facial expression and said indifferently, "Let them in." For now, he didn't have any evidence to prove that the queen and the princess were behind everything. After all these years, he couldn't stop liking them all of a sudden. The queen and Princess Raoshi soon came in. Nothing seemed to have changed in eyes. The queen was as gentle as ever with a smile on her face. Princess Rao took the king's arm and chatted with him. The prince's mother had passed away, and he seemed to be redundant and couldn't join them no matter what. Similar things had happened countless times, for as long as he could remember. He was sad at first, but then he pretended that he didn't care, and gradually, he became numb. But things seem to be different now. The prince thought, "I think that's because I'm more confident now." Because Feng Wu was on his side. With that confidence, he didn't feel envious when he saw them like this. Instead, he could tell that Raoshi and the queen had put on an act. Raoshi held the king's arm and was almost hanging on to him. Princess Raoshi said, "Father, my birthday is tomorrow. Have you forgotten?" The king didn't let his real emotions show. He rubbed Princess Raoshi's head and said affectionately, "Of course not." Princess Raoshi was elated, and she sounded as innocent as a teenage girl. "Really?" The king tapped her nose. "Of course. When did I lie to you?" Princess Raoshi was very happy, so she asked, "Father, what do you want to give?" The king said, "I'll give you whatever you want." Princess Raoshi smiled. "Father, how about you give me this kingdom?" A hush fell over the crowd at those words, and the air seemed to freeze for a moment. A short distance away, all the eunuchs lowered their eyes and didn't dare to breathe loudly. It was so terrifying. The king was surprised as well. Before he could say anything, Princess Rashi chuckled. She then turned to the queen and said, "Mother, my father took it seriously. How funny." Everyone let out a breath of relief when they saw her smile. The king smiled as well, and tapped Princess Rashi on the forehead. "You're so naughty." The prince was watching the whole thing, so he realized something. The princess was trying to sound out his father, but his attitude didn't please her. Rashi was displeased, but it only lasted for a split second. So did her father. Princess Rashi acted as if nothing had happened, and went back to holding the king's arm. "Father, I'm celebrating my birthday tomorrow." The king nodded with a smile. Princess Rashi said, "Father, do you remember? The patriarch said that he would give me a gift for my 18th birthday. It's going to be the primary heaven pill." Chapter 3877. Chapter 3877. Secret of Rashi 5. Chapter 3877. Secret of Rashi 5. Princess Rashi was lost in her story. The primary heaven pill is the best pill in the world. I'll be in great shape after I take it. With my talent, I'll be able to make great progress in my cultivation. "Father, are you happy?" the king asked. Did he really say that? Princess Rashi said, "Of course. You were there before, weren't you? The patriarch said that he had a primary heaven pill for his junior sister. It'll expire if she doesn't take it now." The king did know about it, because the patriarch had talked about it, but they only heard about it by accident. "Did the patriarch say that he was going to give it to you?" the king asked suspiciously. Princess Rashi panicked. What was going on with her father? He had never questioned her words before, and would believe anything she said. Princess Rashi exchanged a stern look with the queen. After that, she threw a dirty look at the prince, which was filled with hatred and rage. Her dear brother must have complained to her father. The prince rubbed his nose and didn't try to explain himself. His father knew what was going on. Princess Rashi looked at the king again. "Father, I've been to the tower a lot, haven't I? The patriarch said once that he was going to give me the pill, and it would be on my 18th birthday. I understand why you didn't know because only the patriarch and I were there. And I never told you about it." As she spoke, she smiled shyly. "The patriarch not only wanted to give me the pill, but he also taught me all kinds of things. He said that I had brought him a lot of joy." Princess Rashi told the king how the patriarch liked her, doted on her, and treated her well. The king was speechless. So was the prince. The father and son looked at each other, and their faces twitched. The image of the princess wiping the floor appeared in their heads. Really, the king looked at her. She was his favorite princess, and he had brought her up by his side. How could she lie to him? He thought about how Princess Rashi used to make him happen when she was little. She would cry when other people carried her and laugh when she saw him. She would hold his father's hand and cry as if he was the only one she cared about in the world. It pained the king to see her like this. At that thought, the king softened a little and decided to give Rashi another chance. "Really? Is the patriarch really that nice to you?" Princess Rashi's stomach lurched. She could sense something different about her father. Did he know something? "Father, did the patriarch say something?" Princess Rashi asked tentatively. The king smiled. "He's so busy, and I hardly ever see him, let alone talk to him. I was just thinking that you haven't come to see me in the tower these days." Princess Rashi let out a breath of relief. She knew it. The patriarch was too unattainable to chat with her father. Princess Rashi immediately said, "I wanted to come in and take care of you, but the patriarch said that you were too sick to be disturbed, so I had no choice but to stay outside. Then, something came up with my mother, and you came out as soon as I arrived. It really wasn't like that." The more she said, the more anxious she became. Chapter 3878. Chapter 3878. The Complaint Against Feng Wu 1. Chapter 3878. The Complaint Against Feng Wu 1. Seeing that Rashi was getting more and more anxious, the king smiled brightly and patted her on the shoulder. "I know that. Seeing that the king wasn't angry, Princess Rashi let out a breath of relief. She didn't want her father to know the truth. As long as he didn't, she could do whatever she wanted. This had been going on for the past decade or so, and no one had ever seen through her act. Therefore, Princess Rashi felt that it wouldn't happen now. As it turned out, her father had no idea. If he had known, he would have been furious, and wouldn't have been so nice. At that thought, Princess Rashi wasn't worried at all. Princess Rashi changed the subject. Father, you haven't told me about the gift yet. Are you not going to give it to me? Seeing Princess Rashi like this, the king was no longer interested. He only smiled and asked, "What kind of gift do you want?" Princess Rashi pouted and mumbled, "I hate someone. Father, can you please help me?" The king asked, "How?" Princess Rashi said, "Catch her and turn her into my toy. Can I do that?" A toy. The king frowned. This princess had crossed the line. Princess Rashi went on, "Father, that person has been offending me. She knows that I'm a princess, but she still won't give in. She doesn't respect the royal family at all. I won't have it." The prince's stomach lurched, and he gave Princess Rashi a strange look. Could it be what he had guessed? "Who offended you?" The king frowned. With his daughter's behavior, that person had to be a decent person to offend her. Princess Rashi went on acting like a spoiled child. "Father, please don't ask me for more details. Can you lend me some men? I'll go catch her myself." The look he gave her the creeps. "Fine, fine. If you want to hear it, I'll make it very clear." Princess Rashi was going to do something about Feng Wu, under the guise of celebrating her birthday. Now that her father had recovered, if the office head of the punishment office sent in his memorial, she might as well put the blame on Feng Wu first. Therefore, she took the opportunity and said, "Father, I went to Stingy Shop a few days ago and found a new weapon." Princess Rashi told the king what had happened, contorting the truth. Naturally, she changed the subject to how polite she was, and how aggressive and arrogant that ugly girl was. The girl was said to have crossed the line and disrespected the princess completely. Princess Rashi changed the subject. "Later, I couldn't stand it anymore, so I made a stupid move. I wanted to kidnap that ugly girl in the middle of the night and teach her a lesson. I wanted to show her that the princess of the Northern Yin Kingdom isn't to be trifled with." The prince gave her a strange look. To be honest, he would be anxious if he didn't know who Feng Wu was, but now, Princess Rashi had no idea of Feng Wu's background. So far, she had only addressed the girl as the ugly girl, which was why the king didn't know who she was talking about. Princess Rashi looked frustrated. "I only wanted to teach her a lesson, so I sent some capable cultivators over. I didn't expect to run into my brother. He thought I was going to do something to Huyen, so he killed all the capable cultivators I sent." Chapter 3879. Chapter 3879. The complaint against Feng Wu 2. Chapter 3879. The complaint against Feng Wu 2. "Father, they were all capable cultivators you gave me. There were 7 spiritual overlords, and my brother killed them all by mistake. Not only didn't they apologize to me, but they also tried to frame me for trying to assassinate Huyen and his family. Father, that's so frustrating." The king frowned a little. He knew about it, because Zhao had mentioned it when he investigated the incident earlier. All 7 spiritual overlords under Rashi had indeed died in the shop, and the culprits were the crown prince's men. "Is that true?" The king stared at the prince. The prince nodded. "Father, it's true." Princess Raoshi gave him a suspicious look. He was supposed to explain himself, but he didn't say a word. There had to be something behind it. The king frowned. "Do you admit your crime?" The prince said affirmatively, "No." The king said, "You killed all 7 spiritual overlords. How can you say that you won't admit your crime?" The prince went down on one knee. "Father, Raoshi sent people to assassinate that girl first. Am I going to let her kill the girl?" The king frowned. 7 spiritual overlords? How dare you? The prince pursed his lips and didn't say a word. Seeing that her father had taught the prince a lesson for her, Princess Raoshi was pleased. She felt she was the only one who could turn a bad thing into a good one. This time, She was determined to destroy her brother's dignity. The king pointed at Princess Raoshi. Go back first. I'll deal with it. Princess Raoshi and the queen left happily, leaving the father and son alone in the study. The king still hadn't let go of his frown. I don't care who that girl is. You've gone too far. 7 spiritual overlords. However, the prince said a name before the king could finish. Feng Wu. The king was confused. What? The prince looked into the king's eyes and enunciated each word clearly. Father, Raoshi sent 7 spiritual overlords into the shop in the middle of the night to assassinate Feng Wu. The king said, I don't care who she is. However, he was interrupted once again. The prince's eyes darkened. Father, you've heard of Feng Wu. She's the newest talent with the phoenix blood from the Zhenwu Empire. She's a genius, and she's rumored to be Jun Lingyuan's fiancée. Oh, it's her. Realization dawned on the king, and he mumbled, if she gives birth to a baby with Jun Lingyuan, it'll have incredible talent. The king glanced at the prince, implying that it would be better if Raoshi could kill such a talented girl. Why would he want to save Feng Wu? Thinking of this, the king glared at the prince, blaming him for being a busybody. The prince looked at the king and reminded him. The patriarch's junior sister's name is Feng Wu. The patriarch's junior sister. The king jumped to his feet. He was so excited that he almost knocked over the table. The prince nodded. The king was speechless. He walked back and forth in the room in astonishment, mumbling to himself, That's impossible. That's impossible. The prince watched his exasperated father in silence. Chapter 3880, Chapter 3880. The Complaint Against Feng Wu 3. Chapter 3880. The Complaint Against Feng Wu 3. The king turned around and stared at the prince. Are you telling the truth? The prince nodded. The king was dumbfounded. So she's Jun Lingyuan's unmarried wife? The king wanted to cry. The prince nodded again. The king said, That's impossible. Isn't she a 1,000-year-old woman? The prince rubbed his forehead. Father, Feng Wu isn't even 15 yet. The king was astonished. The prince nodded. Yup. The king was a little shaken today. He paced back and forth in the study with his hands behind his back and whined. Is fate going to bring prosperity to the Zhenwu Empire? Just then, Zhao came in to report that Huyanyichen was here to see him. Huyanyichen had a token and was given the privilege of entering the palace. Huyanyichen? The king hesitated. It had been years since he last saw the kid in court. He used to like the kid a lot, but after his sister died in an accident, he never came back. Let him in, said the king. Huyanyichen soon came in. He wasn't as lively as he used to be. Instead, he was very polite and well-behaved. The king sighed inwardly and chatted with Huyanyichen about his grandfather for a while before talking about his purpose in coming to court. Princess Raoshi wants to kill us. Huyanyichen told the king what happened that night. If the prince hadn't been here, we would have been killed. Your Majesty, please help us. To protect Feng Wu, Huyanyichen didn't mention her name. He only said that Princess Raoshi wanted to kill him and his grandfather. Moreover, Huyanyichen said his grandfather had sent a memorial, but never got a reply. So he was here to ask the king if he remembered what happened by the lake many years ago. By the lake? The king looked nostalgic. Back when the king was living by the lake, old Huyan had saved him, and the old man himself almost died. He hadn't mentioned it when his granddaughter died, but now he had brought it up. Was it to save Feng Wu? So he must have no idea of Feng Wu's relationship with the patriarch. The king turned to look at his son. The prince nodded affirmatively. The king didn't know what to say. He couldn't wait to see how shocked the old man would be when he learned who Feng Wu really was. Just then, someone stuck her head into the room. Hey, are you talking about? When the king and the prince turned around and saw who it was, they were both surprised. The king was about to greet Feng Wu when he saw the dazed look on Huyanyichen face. Feng Wu knocked Huyanyichen on the head. Hey, stop drooling. Huyanyichen wiped his mouth involuntarily, only to find that he wasn't drooling. Embarrassed, he glared at Feng Wu. But the girl was so pretty that Huyanyichen couldn't look away. He even forgot to get angry. Jun Linyuan gave Hu Yannichen a sympathetic look and thought, "Brother, be careful. She's not someone you can dream about. Even I don't dare to think about her in that way." Feng Wu said grumpily, "What are you looking at?" Chapter 3881. Chapter 3881. The Complaint Against Feng Wu 4. Chapter 3881. The Complaint Against Feng Wu 4. Feng Wu said grumpily, "What are you looking at?" Hu Yannichen's eyes widened in astonishment. That look, that tone, that voice. That was... You are her. Hu Yannichen stared at Feng Wu, too amazed to say anything. Feng Wu glanced at him. "It's only been a few days. Don't you recognize her?" Hu Yannichen said, "You're that ugly girl? Seriously?" Feng Wu smiled at him. That smile. Hu Yannichen finally recognized her. "You." Hu Yannichen was filled with regret. "She's so pretty. Why bother hiding her face? If he knew how pretty she was, he wouldn't have waited. He could have just courted her. So is Feng a made-up name as well?" Hu Yannichen gave Feng Wu a resentful look. Feng Wu gave him an apologetic look and nodded. "I'm Feng Wu." Hu Yannichen snorted. "Feng Wu it is. That's not a well-known name. Why do you want to hide it? Wait, Feng Wu." Hu Yannichen turned around and stared at Feng Wu. "Feng Wu of the Junwu Empire?" Feng Wu asked curiously, "Why, have you heard of my name before?" Hu Yannichen stared at Feng Wu. "Of course I know your name. I've heard it for a long time. Feng Sun wrote me a letter to tell me how beautiful a girl is in the Junwu Empire, saying that we don't have such a beauty here. I'm so jealous." Feng Wu cleared her throat. She didn't expect Feng Sun to be so goofy. Hu Yannichen said. He also said that Jun Linyuan, his buddy, was in love with the girl, but he was stubborn and wouldn't speak, but he was jealous all the time. By the way, he also said in his letter that one day when he interacted more with you, Jun Linyuan challenged him to a duel in the middle of the night. What kind of person was Jun Linyuan? No, it wasn't like he hadn't met Jun Linyuan before. That guy was supposed to be the proud, arrogant, lonely, invincible, and unapproachable type. How could he be so childish? The prince wouldn't believe it. Feng Wu blushed and glanced at Hu Yannichen. "I don't know what you're talking about." Hu Yannichen had no idea what secret he had revealed. He was thrilled by the coincidence, and almost waved his hands in excitement. And he also said in his letter that little Feng Wu is a genius. Not only is she pretty, but she's also talented in formations and medicine. She's amazing in everything. Feng Wu cleared her throat uneasily. Hu Yannichen said, "I can't take his word for it. He said you were talented and capable, but you didn't have any spiritual essence at all." Wait. Hu Yannichen stared at Feng Wu and was baffled. "Your energy doesn't feel the same as before. Your spiritual essence. How's your cultivation level?" Feng Wu didn't want to keep it from him anymore, so she told him her cultivation level. "I'm a peak spiritual overlord," Hu Yannichen said. "A spiritual overlord?" Feng Wu said, "Yes." Hu Yannichen said, "You have no family in the northern Yin kingdom. Don't worry. I'll take care of you." The two of them talked back and forth, ignoring the king completely. The next moment, Hu Yannichen saw the prince go up to Feng Wu and greet her with a bow. "Greetings, senior grandaunt." Hu Yannichen's eyes widened, and he stared at the prince. After that, the prince glanced at Hu Yannichen and nodded. "Wait, what?" Chapter 3882. Chapter 3882. Don't tell other people 1. Chapter 3882. Don't tell other people 1. "No, what?" Hu Yannichen was so shocked that he couldn't speak. He only stared at the prince coldly. "What did you just call her?" The prince asked. "What do you think?" Hu Yannichen scratched his ear. "Am I hearing things? Did you just call her senior grandaunt?" The prince put his hands behind his back and nodded confidently. He didn't feel ashamed at all. Instead, he was very proud of himself. Hu Yannichen gave the king a strange look. By then, the king had realized what had happened. The genius teenage girl of the Junwu Empire was Feng Wu, and Feng Wu was the patriarch's junior sister. Just then, the king heard an authoritative voice. It belonged to the patriarch. Hearing that, the king nodded immediately. Everyone looked at him. The king told Feng Wu, "The master told me not to tell anyone about you being his junior sister. Otherwise you'll be in danger. Please keep it a secret." Feng Wu nodded earnestly. She recalled what the old master said about the feud between his senior and junior brothers, as well as the fact that her master had kept him from the others. All in all, there had to be more to it. Meanwhile, Hu Yannichen stared at Feng Wu in astonishment. No way. What did he just hear? The patriarch's junior sister? Feng Wu? How was that possible? Just then, the king turned his cold gaze on Hu Yannichen. The look in his eyes was so indecipherable that it gave Hu Yannichen the creeps. He stumbled back and wanted to run away. He felt a fatal fear. Hu Yannichen's muscles tensed up, and his heart raced. He wasn't stupid. On the contrary, he was very smart. He could tell from the king's words that the patriarch wanted the king to keep it a secret, and he might be killed because of it. Feng Wu glanced at the king and shook her head. "I have faith in him." The look in the king's eyes was still very stern. Feng Wu became serious as well. She turned to the king and said, "If Hu Yannichen becomes the leak, I'll talk to your patriarch. Your Majesty, please do me a favor." Seeing that Feng Wu insisted, the king nodded. All right. Hu Yannichen's clothes were soaked with sweat, and he felt as if he had been pulled out of the water. Feng Wu calmly said goodbye to the king and dragged Hu Yannichen out. "I was so scared." Hu Yannichen was almost in tears. Holding Feng Wu's hand, he looked touched. "If it hadn't been for you, I would have died here today. His Majesty really wanted to silence me, and he didn't try to hide it." Hu Yannichen could understand that. Everyone in the northern Yan kingdom would do whatever the patriarch said, but he had almost become the sacrifice. Feng Wu was curious as well. "I see that my senior brother is a very prominent figure in the northern Yan kingdom." Hu Yannichen immediately covered her mouth. "My dear girl, please don't call him your senior brother. I'm going to get killed." Feng Wu smiled bitterly. Fine. I won't mention him. But it's true. If word gets out, it'll be very dangerous for me." Once other people found out that she was Mu Jiuzhou's last pupil, they would do anything to get what they wanted. Back then, the secret manual alone was enough to wipe out the Zhua and Hua families. Chapter 3883. Chapter 3883. Don't tell other people too. Chapter 3883. Don't tell other people too. Let's go back to the shop. Feng Wu and Hu Yannichen were about to go back to the shop when they heard a shrilling voice. "Oh my, who are they? They're fighting in the Imperial Palace. What kind of place do they think this is?" Feng Wu and Hu Yannichen turned around involuntarily and saw a large group of people walking toward them, and they all surrounded the two people in the front. Feng Wu recognized the leader right away. It was Princess Rao. As for the person who had spoken, it was the seventh princess. She knew how to fawn on Raoshi since she was little, and had been using Raoshi as an excuse to bully other people. "Oh my, I was wondering who it was. Isn't it Hu Yannichen? You're finally willing to step into the Imperial Palace. What did you say back then? You swore that you would never set foot in the Imperial Palace again." The seventh princess covered her mouth and smirked. Hu Yannichen wouldn't let her win. He smirked and said, "I was wondering who it could be. So it's the Vanguard princess that Princess Raoshi was talking about." Many people didn't understand it, but Princess Raoshi narrowed her eyes and stared at Hu Yannichen. How did he know that? The seventh princess frowned. "What Vanguard? I don't get it." Hu Yannichen chuckled. "That's easy. The poem says the king's vanguard. Princess Raoshi is the king, and you're the vanguard." Feng Wu laughed. That was to say, seeing that everyone on Princess Reiwa's side was staring at her, Feng Wu immediately waved her hands. "I'm sorry. I couldn't help it." The seventh princess didn't get it, so she couldn't say anything. She only stared at Feng Wu. What does he mean? What does that phrase mean? Princess Raoshi gave Feng Wu a warning look, but Feng Wu acted as if she didn't see it. She said to the seventh princess, "Isn't that obvious? It's from the poem Buoshi. And the whole line goes like this. My noble husband is now martial-like. The hero of the country. My husband, grasping his halberd, is in the leading chariot of the king's host. Staring at Feng Wu, the seventh princess frowned and asked, "What's that supposed to mean? Explain it." Before Feng Wu could say anything, Hu Yannichen smirked. "Can't you understand? In other words, you're the most capable warrior in our country. With a weapon in your hand, you're the king's pawn. Charge." Feng Wu chuckled again. But the seventh princess's face was scarlet red. "How dare you?" The seventh princess couldn't stand it and wanted to hit Feng Wu. However, Hu Yannichen only smiled at her and wasn't intimidated at all. Maybe he didn't dare to offend the princess before, but now, Xiao Wu was the junior sister of the patriarch. Why should he be afraid? Raoshi frowned and gave Hu Yannichen a suspicious look. She felt that Hu Yannichen had changed. He seemed to have become more confident all of a sudden. Whose power did he rely on? Meanwhile, Hu Yannichen was trying to lure Princess Raoshi into his trap. He said to the seventh princess, "There's no use yelling at me. I dare you to yell at your king." "You!" The seventh princess was furious. She wanted to slap Hu Yannichen. However, Hu Yannichen wasn't someone to be trifled with. He grabbed the princess's raised hand. Chapter 3884. Chapter 3884. Feng Wu vs. Princess Raoshi 1. Chapter 3884. Feng Wu vs. Princess Raoshi 1. Hu Yannichen grabbed the seventh princess's hand. "Hu Yannichen, how dare you?" The princess was furious. However, Hu Yannichen only sneered at her. "What do you think? You!" The seventh princess turned around and shouted, "Are you all dead? Get over here. Take him and her down." She pointed at Feng Wu, trying to grab her as well. Hu Yannichen glanced at her and smirked inwardly. She has no idea what she's doing. "Wait," said Princess Raoshi. Instantly, all eyes were on her. Meanwhile, Princess Raoshi moved closer and stopped in front of Feng Wu. There was a cold look in her eyes when she asked, "You look familiar. May I ask who you are?" Feng Wu smiled at her. Her gaze was sharper than Princess Raoshi's, and she didn't show any weakness. Next to her, the seventh princess was a little intimidated by Feng Wu's demeanor and wondered who could outshine Raoshi. Princess Raoshi smiled. "Why do I feel that you don't look like someone from the Northern Yin Kingdom?" Feng Wu said indifferently, "Is that so?" Princess Raoshi asked, "Are you from the Zhenwu Empire?" That was to say, Princess Raoshi had recognized Feng Wu. She was able to remain calm after recognizing Feng Wu. That was how shrewd Princess Raoshi was. Feng Wu nodded. "Princess Raoshi, have we met before?" Princess Raoshi smiled. "Someone showed me your portrait. That's all." Feng Wu chuckled. "So, you went after me with my portrait?" Princess Raoshi frowned. She had recognized the person as Feng Wu, the one she was going to kill, for Feng Wu was so unparalleled and easy to recognize. Princess Raoshi gritted her teeth. She couldn't wait to see Feng Wu dead, but in a public place like this, she had to behave like a princess. Yes, she wasn't as pretty as Feng Wu, but she didn't want to lose to Feng Wu either. Princess Raoshi chuckled. "Miss Feng Wu, you're so funny. I don't know where you heard that." Feng Wu kept her unblinking gaze on Raoshi without saying a word. Her stare made Raoshi furious. That look made her feel like a criminal. Since that was the case, Princess Raoshi decided not to maintain her elegance anymore. She glanced at Hu Yannichen and frowned. "This isn't the place for you. Apologize to Seven and get out of here." "Apologize?" Hu Yannichen gave her a contemptuous look and pretended that he didn't hear her. Princess Raoshi didn't want to lose face in front of Feng Wu, but Hu Yannichen's attitude made her feel utterly humiliated. She glared at Hu Yannichen. "Do you know what crime you've committed by disrespecting me?" Hu Yannichen said, "You're not the king. Why should I be accused of disrespecting you? Don't flatter yourself." Princess Raoshi smirked. "You've disrespected the princess of the royal family, which is the same as disrespecting my father. Isn't that disrespectful?" Wang Yi was Princess Raoshi's guard. Hearing that, Wang Yi walked up to Hu Yannichen. He was ready to take Hu Yannichen down. Of course, Hu Yannichen wouldn't let that happen. He fought back right away. However, Wang Yi was an exceptional cultivator. Feng Wu saw that he had reached the peak of the spiritual overlord stage. Chapter 3885. Chapter 3885. Feng Wu vs. Princess Raoshi II. Chapter 3885. Feng Wu vs. Princess Raoshi II. With Feng Wu's help, Hu Yenichen had only just become a junior spiritual overlord. How could he possibly be Wang Yi's match? With one strike, Wang Yi caught Hu Yenichen's arm and was going to pin it behind his back. Princess Raoshi and the seventh princess looked at each other, and both saw satisfaction in each other's eyes. However, the seventh princess still held some grudges against Princess Raoshi because of the whole king and vanguard thing. While Raoshi was gloating, someone charged at Hu Yenichen. The next moment, there was a scream and a figure smashed into Princess Raoshi. The person who screamed wasn't Hu Yenichen, but Wang Yi. Feng Wu grabbed Wang Yi and threw him at Princess Raoshi's face. Ordinary people wouldn't be able to handle that momentum. As expected, at that close distance, Princess Raoshi didn't have time to react. She screamed. The next second, both she and Wang Yi flew backward and fell to the ground. By then, everybody saw that Wang Yi and Princess Raoshi had their arms around each other. Wang Yi was on top, and Princess Raoshi was on the bottom. They didn't stop after falling and kept sliding forward. The seventh princess was so shocked that she couldn't do anything. Oh God, was that still that Raoshi she feared the most? Raoshi had been knocked over, and her guard was on top of her, while everybody was watching. Oh God! Princess Raoshi's perfect image seemed to shatter a little. After sliding for over 10 meters, they smashed into a thorny fence. Ah! Princess Raoshi screamed in pain. She was almost in tears. They finally stopped. She asked Hu Yenichen, "Are you all right?" Wang Yi had grabbed his wrist just then, and Feng Wu saw that it was red and swollen. However, all Hu Yenichen could see was what had happened to Princess Raoshi. Gosh, Feng Wu, you're amazing. He had said that he was going to protect her, but as it turned out, he was the one being protected. On second thought, he realized that the patriarch's junior sister was nothing but a powerful patron for him. Are you really that capable? Hu Yenichen looked at Feng Wu in amazement. Feng Wu nodded. Hu Yenichen was almost in tears. A peak spiritual overlord. She was only in her teens, but she was already a peak spiritual overlord. How could anyone compare to her? Are you all right? Feng Wu glanced at Hu Yenichen's hand again. Hu Yenichen waved his hand. I'm fine. Of course I'm fine. But I can't say the same for Princess Raoshi. Feng Wu said calmly. It was self-defense, wasn't it? As expected, Zhao, the king's most capable servant, was standing behind Feng Wu. Zhao had seen it when the king addressed Feng Wu as his ant master. He knew what he should do. He nodded when he heard the question. By then, Princess Raoshi was finally helped to her feet. She had never been mistreated like this before. She walked up to Feng Wu, threw off the help of the others, and raised her hand to slap the latter. She was furious. She had always been willful, so she decided to stop pretending. However, Chapter 3886, Chapter 3886, Against Princess Raoshi 1. Chapter 3886, Against Princess Raoshi 1. Raoshi raised her hand, trying to slap Feng Wu. However, Feng Wu was too capable to sit still and let other people slap her. Therefore, when Raoshi was about to slap Feng Wu, the latter followed Raoshi's momentum and struck down. The next second, Raoshi spun around like a top. She spun over and over again. She couldn't stop spinning. The seventh princess opened her eyes wide and stared at the scene in disbelief. No, it couldn't be. Oh God. Even the aloof Raoshi would end up in such a sorry state. She must want to stop now. How embarrassing. But no. Under everyone's gaze, Raoshi kept spinning. 10, 20, 30. She didn't stop until she became dizzy and fell to the ground. Everyone was speechless. How dare you? Raoshi's mates bellowed at Feng Wu. Feng Wu recognized them. They were Caixia and Muley. Feng Wu still remembered how Caixia tried to kill her that night. Right now, she was slapping Caixia's master for fun. Feng Wu smiled a little. Saixia found the girl rather familiar. She found the ugly girl at Huyanichen's place familiar. And this stunning girl looked just as familiar. What was going on? By then, Rashi had finally recovered. She stared at Feng Wu and smirked. Do you really think no one can stop you? Feng Wu shrugged without saying a word. Rashi turned to Zhao. Zhao, why should we leave such a person alive? Zhao smiled bitterly at Rashi. Kill her. His Majesty would probably kill the princess first. However, Zhao was too smart to say such hurtful words. He would only smile at Rashi and ask her to calm down. It just so happened that he had been standing by Feng Wu's side the whole time, as if he was guarding her. Rashi was furious. The palm print on Rashi's face was swollen. She stared at Zhao with a grim look on her face. Zhao, don't you want to see the future? The future? Zhao thought. Do you mean after you, Princess Rashi, take the throne? I don't think so. Zhao smiled at Rashi, pretending that he couldn't understand her. Rashi had made it very clear, but Zhao still didn't seem to understand her. She realized that Zhao wasn't going to help her. Fine. Rashi pointed at Feng Wu and Zhao. I'm going to see my father. Feng Wu and Zhao exchanged looks, and Feng Wu shrugged. Just then, Rashi turned around and pointed at Feng Wu. Just wait and see. Just you wait. After that, Rashi picked up her skirt and rushed toward the study. She needed her father's help. Saixia and the others sneered at Feng Wu, thinking that she was doomed. The seventh princess smirked. So you're Feng Wu of the Zhenhua Empire. I've heard of your name before, and I know you're famous in the Zhenhua Empire. Chapter 3887, Chapter 3887. Against Princess Rashi 2. Chapter 3887. Against Princess Rashi 2. But this is the Northern Yin Kingdom, and the person you've beaten up is one of the future heirs to the throne. The seventh princess smirked. How bold of you. I'd like to see how you're going to get out of this after my father arrives. However, Feng Wu only glanced at her and remained unperturbed. Gosh, are we just going to stand here? My legs are a little tired. Feng Wu looked at Zhao in grievance. The seventh princess glanced at Feng Wu and smirked. Get tired just by standing there? You're a spiritual overlord who can beat Rashi up. Stop lying. Moreover, everyone here is more prestigious than a nobody from the Zhenhua Empire. Do you think you'll get a chair? However, with a wave of his hand, a young eunuch showed up and crouched down in front of Feng Wu. Feng Wu looked from the obedient eunuch to Zhao and shook her head. Of course, she knew what Zhao meant, but she couldn't sit on a eunuch's back like everyone else in the imperial palace. Zhao immediately took Feng Wu's hint. Luckily, he was well prepared. As soon as the young eunuch knelt, Zhao told another eunuch to fetch a chair. As expected, the young eunuch returned shortly afterward. He didn't dare to breathe loudly when he put the chair down in front of Feng Wu. He only caught his breath after he stepped back. Zhao straightened his chair and invited Feng Wu to sit down. Miss Feng, please have a seat. Feng Wu nodded and sat down. The seventh princess's eyes widened. Her eyes were big and round to begin with, and they almost popped out now. What was going on? She couldn't understand it. She couldn't understand why Feng Wu, a nobody from the Zhenhua Empire, could be treated like this by Zhao, who was her father's most trusted servant. The king never said anything, so Zhao represented how the king felt about Feng Wu. In that case, was it because she was pretty? Was it because her father liked Feng Wu and wanted to make her his consort? Was that it? At that thought, the seventh princess wanted to scream. Why? Why? She wouldn't have it. Hence, the look she gave Feng Wu became even more fierce. Feng Wu was confused. What was this princess doing? Why did she look like she was going to lose her mind? By then, Rashi had reached the king. Father. Rashi sobbed like a poor girl. The king was going through the memorials to the throne when he saw a person kneeling in front of him and crying like a poor kitten. Who else could it be but his Rashi? How did you? The king helped Rashi to her feet. Seeing her crying, he softened a little and wasn't as displeased with her anymore. What's going on? The king frowned. Rashi happened to look up at that moment. Her cheeks were swollen, and it was obvious that she had been slapped. Her clothes were also smeared with dirt. The king couldn't believe his eyes. Why did Wuxia look like she had been beaten up? Chapter 3888. Chapter 3888. Against Princess Wuxia 3. Chapter 3888. Against Princess Wuxia 3. Wasn't she supposed to be the one beating people up? No one in the imperial palace could touch her. The prince was there as well, and he was surprised to see Wuxia like this. How could it have been? No human being would dare to pick on her. What happened? The king frowned and looked displeased. After all, she was his daughter. He could teach her a lesson himself, but other people. Of course, the king wasn't happy. "Father, please help me," Wuxia wailed and held the king's hand. The king's face darkened. "Speak. Who did this to you?" As she sobbed, Wuxia said, "Someone hit me just because she's a spiritual overlord." The king said, "You have more than one spiritual overlord to protect you." Wuxia said, "That person is a peak spiritual overlord." Wuxia didn't want to reveal Feng Wu's cultivation level, because she felt too humiliated. Wuxia considered herself to be the most talented girl in the kingdom. After cultivating for so long, and using so many spiritual medicines from the Northern Yan Kingdom, she was only a spiritual overlord at most. However, Wang Yi had just told her that Feng Wu was at the peak of the spiritual overlord stage, which almost made Wuxia jealous. The king frowned. Only a handful of people are at the peak of the spiritual overlord stage in the palace. Who would dare to pick on you? Go get them. I'll talk to them. He could teach Princess Wuxia a lesson, but if someone tried to pick on her, because they were too powerful, he wouldn't let it happen. Hearing that, Wuxia was elated. She had thought that Feng Wu had something to depend on, which was why she had been so arrogant. As it turned out, she didn't. "Father, I'll go get her now. A nobody from the Zhenhua Empire can't behave so arrogantly in Northern Yan." After that, Wuxia quickly walked away, feeling very pleased. "Stop." Hearing that, the king rose to his feet and stared at Wuxia. "Did you just say the Zhenhua Empire? Are you talking about Feng Wu?" Wuxia nodded. "That's right." Seeing the look on her father's face, Wuxia suddenly felt uneasy. She asked gingerly, "Father, what's wrong?" The king didn't answer her. Instead, he said with a straight face, "I'll go with you." Wuxia was elated, and all her doubts were gone. She smiled through her tears. Yes. When the king and Wuxia arrived, Feng Wu was sunbathing in boredom, and almost fell asleep. The others didn't know what to say when they saw how calm Feng Wu was. The prince came with Emperor Yan as well. He was just a bystander. However, his heart skipped a beat when he saw her exquisite profile. No. The prince looked away, and tried to remind himself not to look at her or think about her. However, he couldn't help but steal a glance at Feng Wu. He couldn't control himself. How could there be such a woman in this world? Why did she look so attractive even when she was dozing off? "Father." The seventh princess greeted the king. The others followed suit. Feng Wu woke up in a daze when she heard the noise, but she still wiped the corner of her mouth. The sun was a little dazzling, so Feng Wu raised a hand to block the light. Her gaze then landed on Princess Wuxia, who was standing behind the king. She saw. Chapter 3889. Chapter 3889. Oh God 1. Chapter 3889. Oh God 1. Feng Wu rubbed her sleepy eyes, and saw that the emperor was standing right in front of her. Behind him was Princess Wuxia. Right now she was staring at Feng Wu. She stared at Feng Wu with a malicious look in her eyes, and smirked as if she thought that Feng Wu was doomed. Feng Wu glanced at the king impatiently when she saw him. Everyone's stomach lurched when they saw the look on Feng Wu's face. Impatient? Impatient with a king? That couldn't be. They had to be mistaken. Seeing Feng Wu's darkened face, the king panicked. The eldest prince didn't know, but the king had heard a rumor that their patriarch was Mu Jiuzhou's pupil. Although it was only a rumor and wasn't widespread, the king believed it. His father was the one who had spread the rumor. The rumor passed down in the royal family might not be a rumor, but a secret history. The king was already convinced when he saw how close the patriarch and his junior sister were. If she really was the final pupil of Master Mu Jiuzhou, the king's knees buckled, and he almost dropped to the ground. Meanwhile, Raoshi gave Feng Wu a sidelong glance and curled her little finger. "Kneel and kowtow to me." Before Feng Wu could say anything, the king bellowed, "Raoshi." That voice made Raoshi jump, and she stared at the king in bewilderment. The king shouted, "Kneel." Princess Raoshi was speechless. Things had happened so fast. Raoshi didn't realize what had happened. She only stared at the king in bewilderment. All she could think of was the same question. Why? 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 Feng Wu glanced at Raoshi, but didn't say anything. She only crossed her arms and watched her quietly. The look in the king's eyes had never been so stern and fierce. His intimidating power swept toward Raoshi like a mountain pressing down on her, making her tremble, and her knees buckled. She had seen her father losing his temper before, but she had never been the target. Raoshi knew very well that when her father was infuriated if she went against him, she would end up in a miserable state. She had seen with her own eyes how her father's favorite concubine had talked back to him and ended up getting killed. Father. Without hesitation, Raoshi dropped to her knees. She was trembling from fear. When infuriated, her father would do anything. Raoshi trembled inwardly. "Not at me." Although the king's voice was calm, it was bone-chillingly cold. Princess Raoshi was astonished. So were the others. Zhao, the eunuch on Feng Wu's side, didn't think much of it. Although he knew who Feng Wu really was, he didn't realize that he had underestimated her. As for Raoshi's people, they were almost driven crazy by the news. It was so terrifying. Who on earth was this person? Why did Princess Raoshi have to kneel down and apologize to her? Even an ordinary princess shouldn't be asked to do that. Not to mention that Raoshi was the crown prince-to-be. This wasn't something she could take lightly. In the crowd only. Chapter 3890, Chapter 3890. Oh God 2. Chapter 3890. Oh God 2. In the crowd, only the seventh princess nodded. Yes, it had to be what she had guessed. At that moment, Raoshi finally realized that her father meant it. Tears welled up in her eyes, and she felt so wronged. But in the end, she still whispered something to Feng Wu. Feng Wu looked at her and smiled. "Princess Raoshi, what did you say?" Raoshi gritted her teeth, but she had to raise her voice. "I'm sorry." Feng Wu smiled at her. "Who are you apologizing to?" Raoshi knew that Feng Wu did it on purpose, but with her father's support, Feng Wu would win no matter what. Raoshi thought, forget it. It's never too late for me to take my revenge. Feng Wu, just wait and see. As expected of Princess Raoshi, once she changed her attitude, she could speak much more freely. Tears welled up in her eyes, and she looked very aggrieved. "Miss Feng Wu, I don't know what I did to offend you, but since you've said that I was wrong, I'm sorry." After that, Raoshi glanced at her father and burst into tears. The king felt sorry for Raoshi. However, Feng Wu only smiled at her. "Don't you know what you've done to offend me? Didn't you want to kill me?" Raoshi's stomach lurched. She knew. However, Raoshi still looked as if she had been wronged. She said aggrievedly, "Miss Feng Wu, where did you hear that rumor? I've never met you before, so why should I feel resentful? Why should I want you?" The king also looked at Feng Wu suspiciously. Rubbing her chin, Feng Wu said calmly, "I want to know why you want to kill me too. You can tell me when you've made up your mind." Feng Wu rose to her feet after that. Raoshi shouted after Feng Wu, "Miss Feng Wu, I've never sent anyone after you. I'm afraid you've misunderstood. If there really is such a rumor, someone is trying to frame me, and he'll get the greatest benefit. Miss, please be wise, and don't let other people fool you." Was that a hint that either Feng Wu had slandered her, or the eldest prince had done it? The prince was furious. "Do you think I need to slander a kid like you?" Feng Wu waved at Raoshi impatiently and left. Raoshi was furious. Feng Wu was treating Raoshi as if the latter was an annoying kid of the family. That was so frustrating. The king threw a dirty look at Raoshi. After the others left, the seventh princess walked up to Raoshi and whispered, I am why father is biased toward her. Raoshi frowned and glanced at her. The seventh princess whispered something in Raoshi's ear. The next second Raoshi frowned. That's impossible. She shook her head. But the seventh princess said affirmatively. It has to be. Look, Fengwu is so pretty. Have you seen anyone like her before? Right? Raoshi threw a dirty look at her and turned to leave. But the seventh princess ran after her and said, So, I think father is definitely infatuated with her and wants to make her his concubine. She's so pretty. If she's like this before she goes to court, our father will believe everything she says in the future. Chapter 3891, Chapter 3891. Feng Sun 1. Chapter 3891, Feng Sun 1. Raoshi pushed the seventh princess away before she could finish. Seeing that Raoshi had left, the seventh princess smirked. Raoshi, I won't let you use me anymore. Fengwu had no idea that she could sow dissatisfaction between the seventh princess and Princess Raoshi with just a few words. Right now, she had already left with Huyinichen. Fengwu went back to the tower, while Huyinichen went back to the shop. All of a sudden, Huyinichen stopped Fengwu. Wait. Fengwu looked back at him in bewilderment. You, Huyinichen suddenly whispered. Do you have someone you like? The eldest prince smacked Huyinichen on the head. Huyinichen glared at the prince. What are you doing? That hurts. The prince thought. I'd rather you die from the pain than get killed by Jun Linyuan. He dragged Huyinichen to the side and whispered something to him. Soon, Fengwu heard Huyanichen's surprised voice. What? Really? That's impossible. I don't believe it. 5 minutes passed before they returned, and Fengwu realized that Huyanichen looked very awkward when he saw her. Fengwu looked at him in bewilderment. However, after throwing a dirty look at Fengwu, Huyanichen went back into the shop and locked the door behind him. Fengwu was confused. She looked at the tightly shut door of the shop before turning to the prince. Did I offend him? The prince smiled bitterly. He couldn't explain to her, but with Huyanichen's temper, he should be able to figure it out in no time. The prince was about to speak to Fengwu when someone rushed toward them. Instead of looking at Fengwu and the prince, the person knocked on the door of the shop. Thump, thump, thump. Thump, thump, thump. If one didn't know better, they would think that he was here for a fight. Fengwu was dumbfounded when she saw the person standing outside the shop. He was an old acquaintance. However, the person didn't even look around. He just stood outside the shop and banged on the door with all his strength. Inside, Huyanichen was already angry, and he was even more agitated now. He opened the door abruptly. He was astonished when he saw who it was. You. Huyanichen glared at the man. What are you doing here? The person that was supposed to be the least likely to show up here was right outside his house. Why are you here? Huyanichen stared at Feng Sun. Yes. The visitor was none other than Feng Sun. Fengwu was dumbfounded as well, but Feng Sun hadn't spotted her yet. Feng Sun rolled his eyes at Huyanichen. I'm here to see you. What? You don't welcome me? Huyanichen was in a bad mood. He was heartbroken before he could make any achievements. Why did that happen to him? According to the prince, Fengwu and Jun Linyuan of the Junhua Empire. Wait, Feng Sun was Jun Linyuan's childhood friend, wasn't he? Huyanichen was even more frustrated. He pushed Feng Sun away. Go away. You're not welcome here. Feng Sun had no idea what was going on here. He thought that Huyanichen was like this because of that lousy iron all those years ago. Chapter 3892, Chapter 3892. Feng Sun 2. Chapter 3892, Feng Sun 2. Feng Sun chuckled and put his right hand on Huyanichen's shoulder. Gosh, what's wrong with you? It's been so many years. Why are you still holding grudges? Feng Sun patted Huyinichen on the chest as he spoke. You're a man. Don't be so petty. I don't remember anything from the past. Huyinichen grumbled. Of course you don't. Wait. Huyanichen's eyes lit up. That didn't make sense. He had indeed been tricked by Feng Sun and had paid a lot of money for a pile of useless iron. However, Didn't Feng Wu turn it into an invaluable weapon? And what happened afterward had taught Raoshi such a lesson. Feng Sun looked at Huyanqichen in bewilderment. Why did his eyes suddenly light up? Huyanqichen kept staring at Feng Sun with a smile, which gave Feng Sun the creeps. Why are you laughing? Feng Sun was suspicious. Huyanqichen guffawed. Feng Sun was confused. Hey, why are you laughing? Huyanqichen finally stopped laughing, but he pointed at Feng Sun and gloated. That piece of junk. Ha ha ha, who told you that was junk? Feng Sun, you have poor taste. Feng Sun was perplexed. It was definitely a piece of junk. Huyanqichen said. That piece of junk has been refined into an arm of discipline. Have you heard of it before? Feng Sun shook his head. Huyanqichen gloated at Feng Sun. The arm of discipline is a semi-divine weapon. Do you know what that means? The so-called useless iron is actually divine iron. Feng Sun said, Really? I don't believe you. Huyanqichen clicked his tongue. Feng Sun said, I don't believe you unless you show me that weapon. Huyanqichen grumbled. Before he could go to Feng Wu for help. But now that he decided he wouldn't talk to Feng Wu for a day, he couldn't bring himself to ask for her help. Seeing that he couldn't come up with the weapon, Feng Sun thought he was bragging, so he waved Huyanqichen off and said seriously, Enough with that. I know you're very capable. Can you help me find someone? Huyanqichen glanced at Feng Sun. No. Feng Sun threw an arm over his shoulder. Why? Why won't you help me? From afar, Feng Wu was amazed. Feng Sun was really good at making friends. Huyanqichen was mad at Feng Sun at first. After all, Feng Sun had tricked him for so many years. But that was exactly what Feng Sun was capable of. As soon as Feng Sun showed up, he behaved like Huyanqichen's best friend. Huyanqichen was too young and soft-hearted to chase Feng Sun away. Feng Sun seemed to decide to stay in the shop for a while. Not only that, but he had asked Huyanqichen to look for someone. Huyanqichen sat angrily at the desk and rested his face on his hands. I'm not helping you. I'm not. Feng Sun nudged him and repeated the same words. Help me. Help me. Help me. Feng Wu and the prince were walking in when they saw this, and she almost burst out laughing. Feng Sun was the cutest teenager in the world. Fine. You're so annoying. Now who are you looking for? Get lost as soon as you find them. Huyanqichen feigned an angry tone. Feng Sun wanted to say something. Just then, Feng Sun looked up and saw little Feng Wu. Feng Sun's eyes widened in surprise. Chapter 3893. Chapter 3893. You I Re So Amazing 1. Chapter 3893. You I Re So Amazing 1. Little Feng Wu. Feng Sun's eyes widened in surprise. He stared at the person in disbelief. Little Feng Wu. Was it really the person he was looking for? What was going on? He had searched high and low for her, but she just so happened to be there. Feng Sun left Huyanqichen behind and quickly walked toward Feng Wu. Meanwhile, Huyanqichen had raised his chin and was waiting for Feng Sun to beg him again before he said yes. Hey you! Huyanqichen cried out involuntarily when he saw Feng Sun run off. Feng Sun ignored Huyanqichen, for all his attention was on Feng Wu. Why are you here? Are you really here? That's really! Feng Sun cried out in surprise. Did you wait here because you knew I was coming? Huyanqichen moved closer. Did you find? However, Feng Sun pushed him away. I found her. I don't need you anymore. He knew it. He knew it. That scumbag Feng Sun was relentless. Huyanqichen grumbled. You weren't like this when you begged me. Feng Sun grabbed Feng Wu's arm. Kiddo, I heard that you were being chased. I was so. Feng Wu was amused. Are you not mad anymore? Feng Sun suddenly realized something. He had only left because he had fallen out with Feng Wu. What happened on the boat? Feng Sun blushed. Of course I'm mad. I'm so mad. Crossing his arms, Feng Sun threw a dirty look at Feng Wu. Feng Wu chuckled. She knew that Feng Sun wouldn't stay mad for long. It wouldn't do him any good to keep their conflict to himself, so she said it on purpose to tease Feng Sun and let it drop. Stay bad then. I'm going to see Princess Raoshi now. Do you have a death wish? As soon as he heard that Feng Wu was going to see Princess Raoshi, Feng Sun, who had been pretending to be angry, turned into a roaring dog. Go to see her? Do you have a death wish? Don't you know that she's after you? Why do you want to see her? Feng Wu smiled at Feng Sun. Fine, fine. I won't go to her. But how did you know that she was after me? Feng Sun said grumpily. Boss Jun said so. Feng Wu was surprised. He knows. How? Feng Sun nodded. What doesn't he know about you? He also told me to come here and protect you. And Feng Sun took a letter out of his chest pocket and handed it to Feng Wu. He can't come here yet, so he asked someone else to do it. Feng Wu asked curiously, who? Northern Yan's king, said Feng Sun. Technically it's a letter of credence. I think the king will scold Princess Raoshi after he gets it. Feng Wu frowned. If it's a letter of credence, it's a big deal, and the Junwu Empire will have to pay a price, won't we? Jun Linyuan would have to pay a price if he wanted to ask for the king's help. Feng Sun nodded. Of course. Feng Sun suddenly stopped talking. He waved his hand and said, That's not important. We just need to give Boss Jun time. When he's free, he can take care of Princess Raoshi in no time. Don't worry. It'll be all right. Feng Sun had faith in Jun Linyuan. Chapter 3894. Chapter 3894. You re so amazing too. Chapter 3894. You re so amazing too. Feng Wu was curious. What did Jun Linyuan promise the king with this letter? Was that why he was so confident that the emperor would discipline Raoshi? Huyichen snorted. Feng Sun glanced at him over his shoulder. Huyichen, what are you doing? Do you want to sneeze? Huyichen snorted. You don't need His Majesty to discipline Raoshi. That's just unnecessary. Your crown prince's letter is so redundant. Feng Sun frowned at Huyichen. What's that supposed to mean? Why do I feel that you're a little displeased with Boss Jun? Of course, Huyichen was displeased. Jun Linyuan and Feng Wu. But Jun Linyuan could write a letter directly to the king, whereas the king could silence Huyichen whenever he wanted to. Huyichen sighed inwardly, but he couldn't be stubborn anymore. He said grumpily, He really doesn't need to do that. You'd better ask your dear sister. He then turned around. Feng Sun looked at Feng Wu in bewilderment. Xiao Wu, what's going on? Feng Wu smiled, nodded at Feng Sun and said, Huyichen is right. We don't need to ask the king for help, because we have a more powerful patron now. Feng Sun was confused. A more capable patron? Someone better than the king? Feng Wu nodded matter-of-factly. Feng Sun said, Really? I don't believe you. The king is the ruler of Northern Yan, and he's the sovereign that calls the shots. Who would dare to challenge him? Feng Wu smiled. So tell me, is there really no one better in the Northern Yan kingdom? Tilting his head, Feng Sun gave it some thought and said, You can't say that. Patriarch Huyan is such a prominent figure that even the king can't surpass him. But isn't he supposed to be very unapproachable and elusive? Can we find him? Even if we can find him and ask him for help, it'll be almost impossible, right? Feng Sun found the idea unreliable. Feng Wu smiled at him. Do you still remember why we're here in Northern? Feng Sun said. To treat your injury, then travel the world. Hey, wait! Feng Sun's eyes widened. He took a step back and studied Feng Wu as he walked around her. He rubbed his chin, and his eyes lit up. Why do I feel that? You're moving swiftly now and aren't as weak as before. Feng Wu smiled at him. Take another guess. Seeing that Feng Wu was teasing Feng Sun, Huyichen was elated. Feng Sun, it's your turn. No wonder they said that no matter how capable one was, there would always be someone who could control them. As it turned out, Feng Wu was that person who could control Feng Sun. How lucky! Huyichen was only infatuated with Feng Wu for a brief moment. After Feng Sun's quips, his feelings for her had long dissipated. Feng Sun stared at Feng Wu. Your spiritual essence. Remove the concealing jade and let me see what level you are. Feng Sun thought. No matter how capable you are, you'll be a junior spiritual overlord at most. However, after Feng Wu removed the concealing jade, Feng Sun felt a tremendous amount of spiritual essence rushing toward him, which made him stumble back involuntarily. Chapter 3895. Chapter 3895. You're so amazing 3. Chapter 3895. You're so amazing 3. No, this isn't right. Feng Sun's eyes widened, and he stared at Feng Wu. You're definitely not a junior spiritual overlord. I know what a junior spiritual overlord is like. I'm a junior spiritual overlord myself. Feng Wu smiled at him and nodded. Feng Sun gritted his teeth and asked, Are you telling me that you're already an intermediate spiritual overlord? Feng Wu was still smiling at him. Feng Sun asked, Are you a level 5 spiritual overlord? Feng Wu shook her head. Feng Sun took a deep breath. Level 6 spiritual overlord. Feng Wu was still smiling and shaking her head. Feng Sun's stomach lurched. Why? You're not a level 7 spiritual overlord, are you? Feng Sun didn't dare to guess anymore. You were only a junior spiritual overlord when we parted. Please don't scare me like that. However, Feng Wu chuckled and kept smiling at him. Huyanichan darted a look at Feng Sun, his eyes filled with satisfaction. Oh my Feng Sun, I didn't know you could be shocked by a genius. Do you know how resentful I was when you used your talent to bully me? Huyanichan couldn't help but laugh. It was so satisfying. He found it so satisfying to hang out with Feng Wu. Hence, he decided that he and Feng Wu were friends again. Feng Wu had no idea how Huyanichan's mind had changed. Feng Sun waved at Huyanichan. Go away. You know nothing. After that, Feng Sun chased Huyanichan away and stared at Feng Wu. If you're not a level 7 spiritual overlord, what level are you now? Feng Wu smiled. I'm a level 9 spiritual overlord. Feng Sun stared at her with widened eyes. Feng Wu gave a perfect guileless look and nodded. Not only am I a level 9 spiritual overlord, but I'm also a peak one. Feng Sun was astonished. Seeing how shocked Feng Sun was, Feng Wu beamed at him. She knew it. Feng Sun rubbed his face. Well, sister, are you joking with me? It's not funny at all. I'm not joking. Xiao Wu has reached the peak of level 9 of the spiritual overlord stage. And that's what she is now. Feng Sun, you can't question a talented person just because you don't have the talent. Huyanichan retorted without hesitation. It was so satisfying to talk back to Feng Sun. He had never felt so good in his life. Little Feng Wu was like a little angel that had lit up his world. Feng Sun threw a dirty look at Huyanichan before turning back to Feng Wu. Is that true? Feng Wu said, yes. Feng Sun didn't know what to say. Feng Wu asked what? Feng Sun said, I don't think this world is real. Huyanichan pinched me. Ah, did you really do that? Since Huyanichan had such a rare opportunity, of course he wouldn't hold back. The pain almost brought tears to Feng Sun's eyes, but he did feel the pain. So it's true? You're really a peak spiritual overlord now? Feng Sun looked at Feng Wu with a long face. Chapter 3896. Chapter 3896. You're so amazing 4. Chapter 3896. You're so amazing 4. Feng Wu nodded with a perfectly guileless look on her face. Yes. Feng Sun sobbed. He was so sad and jealous. He felt abandoned. He used to be much more capable than Feng Wu, but ever since Feng Wu regained her ability, she began to make rapid progress and surpassed him. However, she soon fell ill and lost her cultivation ability again. Feng Sun felt that he could be a good, protective brother to his sister now. As it turned out, the next time they met, the girl had improved again. Do you not need to train at all? Do you just sit there and get stronger? Feng Sun said with a long face. He was so envious. Feng Wu chuckled. What are you talking about? I've been working very hard. Feng Sun thought. Like hell, I'll believe you. However, if he could make so many breakthroughs in such a short time, he would be willing to do anything. By the way, how are you doing? I see that you've had an adventure as well. Feng Wu looked curiously at Feng Sun. Feng Sun had only just made a breakthrough to the spiritual overlord stage when they parted. But now, he was already a level 3 spiritual overlord. Not bad. He had indeed had a little lucky encounter. He had thought that he would be able to get closer to Feng Wu's cultivation level, but that wasn't the case. How sad. Feng Wu patted Feng Sun on the head as if he was a wounded puppy. There. Don't be sad. I'll take you to. Feng Wu was going to say senior brother. But she then remembered that she had to keep their relationship a secret for her own safety. So she changed her mind. I'll take you to see the patriarch, and see if he has any other pills for you. Feng Sun asked curiously. Did you take some pills? Wait, patriarch, you. Feng Wu answered Feng Sun's first question. That's right. I took the primary heaven pill. Feng Wu winked at Feng Sun. Feng Sun had to have heard of the famous pill. As expected, Feng Sun stared at Feng Wu in astonishment. The primary heaven pill? Is it the one that can revive the dead? Have you taken it? Feng Wu said. Can it revive the dead? I don't know, but it can indeed strengthen one's body. After taking it, I've reached the stage where I can enhance my bone marrow. That stage? Feng Sun almost fell to the ground again. He had been refining his body since he was little, but after over a decade. You. Forget it. Let's not talk about your cultivation anymore. The patriarch? As in Patriarch Huyan, who's more prestigious than the Northern Yan's king. Feng Sun was intrigued. Feng Wu nodded. That's right. Feng Sun was confused. Why did you come to him? Wait, how can you see him? It's supposed to be very hard to see him. Huyan said grumpily. What do you mean by very difficult? It was very easy for her to meet him. Not only did she meet the patriarch, but she has also taken his primary heaven pill. Feng Sun stared at Feng Wu in amazement. Feng Wu nodded. Feng Sun said, Wait. Let me think it through. I'm so shocked that I can't think straight. Only then did Feng Sun turn his gaze on Feng Wu. So, you're saying that not only did you meet the legendary top cultivator of the Northern Yan Kingdom, but you're also very close to him? You even took the legendary primary heaven pill, and reached the peak of the spiritual overlord stage? Feng Wu said, That's right. Feng Sun smacked his forehead. If we knew how capable you are, we wouldn't have been so worried. Chapter 3897. Chapter 3897. Compared to Boss June 1. Chapter 3897. Compared to Boss June 1. Feng Wu mumbled. You didn't have to worry about me. I'm so smart. Feng Sun didn't hear her. What did you say? Feng Wu immediately fawned on him. I was just saying. Brother. I'm so touched by how worried you all are about me. Feng Sun rubbed Feng Wu's head and gloated. Isn't it my duty to care about you? And you have to thank Jun Lin Yuan. Ever since he found out that you were being hunted by all those people, he was so mad that he went off to destroy those people's forces. Feng Wu asked curiously, What do you mean by that? Feng Sun smiled. Haven't you noticed that no one in the Zhua and Hua families has bothered you recently? Feng Wu tilted her head and gave it some thought. That was true. Ever since she came to the imperial capital, she didn't feel like she was being watched anymore. She had always thought that it was because those people weren't watching Northern Yan. Of course it's not like that. That old man has been watching you the whole time, and he couldn't wait to stew you. You have the divine phoenix blood. Feng Sun gloated. They stopped watching you because Boss Jun has made them cry. Feng Wu was amazed. Cry? Feng Sun waved his hand. Yes, it's an exaggeration, but it's more or less the same because Boss Jun went to the old Zhua family manor in Jingjiang province first and severely injured the old master there. Feng Wu asked curiously, Wasn't the Zhua family's old master already? Feng Sun said, It's not the same one. The one in the imperial capital has been destroyed by you, and is in a semi-paralyzed state. I don't know where he went after that, but we haven't found him yet. However, there's another one in the old Zhua family manor in Jingjiang province. He's the last old master of the Zhua family, but this time, Boss Jun has destroyed his cultivation ability. Before Feng Wu could say anything, Hu Yannichen said, If I remember it correctly, the elders of the Zhenhua Empire are spiritual saints, right? Feng Sun crossed his arms. That's right. Hu Yannichen said. Then you're lying. Feng Sun frowned and stared at him. Why am I lying? Tell me. When did I lie? Huyen said. You said that Jun Linyuan has crippled the head of the Zhou family, who was a spiritual saint. As far as I know, he's more than a junior spiritual saint. How was Jun Linyuan going to fight him? Is he more powerful than a junior spiritual saint? Feng Sun patted Huyen on the shoulder in satisfaction. Hey buddy, you were right. Huyen twisted his shoulder, stared at Feng Sun, and said grumpily, I'm not your buddy. Keep bragging. I don't believe Jun Linyuan can be that capable. Feng Sun glanced at Huyen in bewilderment. I think you don't like Boss Jun. Huyen snorted and looked away. Feng Sun's eyes widened, as if he had just discovered a new land. You used to follow Boss Jun everywhere and wouldn't leave. Why are you jealous now? Huyen, are you comparing yourself to Boss Jun? Huyen threw a dirty look at Feng Sun. Chapter 3898. Chapter 3898. Compared to Boss Jun 2. Chapter 3898. Compared to Boss Jun 2. Feng Sun made a big deal out of it. Oh my! What did I find? Huyen, are you really comparing yourself to Boss Jun? Why are you doing this to yourself? I don't even dare to compare myself to Boss Jun, because I don't stand a chance. How dare you? You're incredible. Feng Sun cupped his hands at Huyen as he spoke, infuriating the teenager. Huyen face went scarlet red. Seeing that Huyen was furious, Feng Wu tried to mediate the situation. Do you want to go in and look around? Feng Wu pointed at the tower behind them as she spoke. Huyen said grumpily, That's the master's tower. We can't get in. Feng Sun's eyes lit up. Really? I can go in? Feng Wu nodded. Maybe he has hidden something nice inside, right? Feng Sun nodded immediately. That's right. I don't mind coming out empty-handed. But what if there's some good stuff inside? We'll be so lucky. He took Feng Wu's hand in a hurry. Show me inside. Quickly. Huyen gave Feng Sun a strange look. I can't believe you just said that. He had never seen Feng Sun like this before. In Huyen mind, Feng Sun was the naughty teenager who had bullied him so much that he used to cry. Feng Sun glanced at him and raised his chin. So what if I begged my sister? Do you have a sister? Do you? Huyen said. I don't know who you are anymore. Feng Sun said. You're just jealous. You're jealous that I have such a wonderful sister. Feng Sun put a hand on Feng Wu's shoulder as he spoke. He thought to himself, one need to get closer to little Feng Wu while Boss Jun isn't around. Otherwise, when Boss Jun gets here, I won't even be able to stand next to her. At that thought, Feng Sun leaned his head on Feng Wu's shoulder. Huyen couldn't stand it anymore. You, Feng Sun snorted in thought. You have no idea how much Boss Jun has been guarding against all males when he and Feng Wu are together. You're so lucky to be so close to her now. Huyen, you know nothing. Feng Wu gave in as well. She knocked Feng Sun on the head and said, There. Let's go. Hey, this is. Only then did Feng Sun seem to notice someone else was there, and he pointed at the young man next to Feng Wu. He had noticed from the very beginning that the young man was with his sister, and appeared to be quite close to her. He didn't say anything, because he wanted to leave that young man hanging. Feng Sun didn't expect the young man to be so mild-tempered. He just stood there, and listened without saying a word, which rendered Feng Sun speechless. He's Huyen Junchen, the eldest prince of Northern Yan. Feng Wu introduced him. Feng Sun looked at Feng Wu in amazement. The eldest prince? Why was the prince so nice? Why did he just stand there and wait? Was he secretly in love with Feng Wu? Feng Sun stared at the prince with eyes as sharp as daggers. The prince was a smart man, and he immediately sensed Feng Sun's hostility. Sensing the strange atmosphere between them, Feng Wu wanted to intervene, but Feng Sun spoke first. Your Royal Highness, may I have a word? That's what I was thinking. The prince nodded, and went to a corner with Feng Sun. The two of them then started chatting. Chapter 3899. Chapter 3899. Compared to Boss Jun 3. Chapter 3899. Compared to Boss Jun 3. Feng Sun was alarmed at first, but the prince said something, and Feng Sun beamed at him. He even patted the prince on the shoulder. When they came back, they looked like best buddies. It was mainly because Feng Sun could befriend anyone, and the prince only smiled bitterly. They were about to leave when Huyan Yichen spotted his grandfather. Seeing that the group was heading for the tower, old Huyan scolded them. "Where are you going?" Huyan Yichen said excitedly. Grandpa, we're going into the tower." Old Huyan's face darkened, and he said grumpily, "Do you think you can disturb the patriarch just like that? Do you think you can go straight in? Other people may not know this, but you've lived here for so many years. Have you seen anyone else go in?" Huyan Yichen said, "But Grandpa." Old Huyan said, "There's no but. If you disturb the patriarch, you're going to die a miserable death. Now come back with the prince and the others." Huyan Yichen said anxiously, "But Grandpa, we have people inside. We can go in." Old Huyan was so angry that he laughed. "You have people inside. The patriarch and the giant eagle are the only ones inside. Are they your men? Use your brain, even if you're lying." Infuriated, old Huyan jabbed a finger in Huyan Yichen's forehead as he spoke, trying to drag him away. However, at that moment, the protective wall that had always been sealed opened, and a giant eagle stood in front of them. Seeing the giant eagle, old Huyan immediately became very respectful, as if he was meeting the patriarch. He even kicked Huyan Yichen, hinting at him to stand at attention and bow. However, at that moment, Feng Wu greeted the giant eagle with a grin. "You came out before I knocked on the door. Did you know I was coming?" The giant eagle gave Feng Wu an aggrieved look and said grumpily, "You've been gone for so long, and the patriarch is worried sick. He's asked about you more than 10 times a day, and I couldn't go anywhere. I've done nothing but wait here for you. If you don't come back now, I'm going to fly out and look for you." Feng Wu gave the eagle a wry smile. "I only asked a question. Why are you throwing so many things at me?" The giant eagle said, "Come with me then. The patriarch is waiting." Feng Wu pointed at the people behind her. "They're here to have a look around. I don't think the patriarch will mind, will he?" The giant eagle said grumpily, "Just tell him that you invited them. What can he possibly say?" The giant eagle finally saw that she wasn't just a junior sister at all. She was the apple of the patriarch's eye. Hence, they all entered the tower under old Huyan's astonished gaze. Outside, old Huyan just stood there. He only realized what had happened when the door closed. He then asked Iron Tower, "Am I hearing things? Was that an illusion?" Iron Tower shook his head. Old Huyan was speechless. He no longer knew what this world was like. Meanwhile, in the imperial palace, Princess Raoshi was standing obediently in front of the king when he threw a teacup at her face. She didn't dare to dodge. The tea splashed all over her face, and the cup made a bloody gash on her forehead. Chapter 3900 Chapter 3900 The End of Princess Rao 1 Chapter 3900 The End of Princess Rao 1 Seeing the blood oozing out of Princess Rao's forehead, the king was still furious. He pointed at Princess Raoshi. "How dare you?" Princess Raoshi had no idea what she had done wrong, so she stubbornly knelt on the ground. Next to her, the queen was so anxious that she tried to comfort the king. "Your Majesty, what did Raoshi do? Why did you hit her like this?" The king smirked. "What did she do? Ask her." The queen panicked. Could it be? Meanwhile, Princess Raoshi gave the queen a warning look, telling her to keep her mouth shut. She then gracefully kowtowed to the king, raised her head, and said in a tone that was neither humble nor arrogant, "Father, I don't know what I did wrong." The king was so angry that he laughed. "You don't know? Don't make me laugh. Do I need to remind you?" Princess Raoshi straightened her back and said calmly, "Your Majesty, I'd love to know." The king was so angry that he pointed at Princess Raoshi. "You're unbelievable. How dare you do that? I can't believe that I've chosen you to be one of my heirs." Princess Raoshi pursed her lips and didn't say a word. She had a feeling that she would have a very difficult time, but... "Father, are you talking about assassinating Feng Wu?" Princess Raoshi asked. The king only sneered at her without saying a word. Princess Raoshi sighed and looked at the emperor. "Father, if I had another chance, I would still go after her. I have to kill her." The king narrowed his eyes and stared at her like a wolf king. Princess Raoshi said calmly, "Everyone says that she has the divine phoenix blood, and that she's Jun Lingyuan's fiancée. Everyone says that she has a promising future. But father, will it benefit the Northern Yin Kingdom to have such a person around? Will it benefit us if she marries Jun Linyuan and has a wonderful baby? Therefore Feng Wu has to die. Once she's dead, there will be no divine phoenix blood anymore. The Zhenghua Empire won't be a problem for the Northern Yin Kingdom. Once I become the ruler of our kingdom, I'll join hands with the Dongxing Kingdom and rise above the Zhenwu Empire in the future. That's why I don't understand. Father, why are you so short-sighted? You actually like Feng Wu. She's pretty but she's poisonous. Father, please make the right decision." After that, she kowtowed 3 times and felt that she had done a great service. That was so much information that the queen didn't know how to react. Even the king. He was so angry that he almost had a heart attack. Did Raoshi just say he fancied Feng Wu? She believed that he had given Feng Wu preferential treatment because he wanted Feng Wu to be his woman? She was the junior sister that the patriarch protected, and even might be the last pupil of Mu Jiuzhou. How ridiculous. The king was hot the Norvan frightened. Seeing the grim look on the king's face, Princess Raoshi thought that she had hit the nail on the head, so she went on. Father, the war between the Zhenhua Empire and the Dongxing Kingdom is going on in the Peace Grassland. Chapter 3901. Chapter 3901. The End of Princess Rao 2. Chapter 3901. The End of Princess Rao 2. Right now, the Zhenhua Empire and the Dongxing Kingdom are fighting fiercely in the Peace Grassland. They're about the same level, and it's still too early to tell who's going to win. The more Raoshi said, the more excited she became. This is the best time for the Northern Yin Kingdom to get involved. We'll get a big share, no matter if we side with the Dongxing Kingdom or the Zhenhua Empire. Father, I'm in favor of. However, before she could finish, the king silenced her with a wave of his hand. Princess Raoshi looked at him in bewilderment. The king stared at her. Is that why you wanted to kill Feng Wu? Princess Raoshi said, yes. It's said that she's Jun Linyuan's favorite. Capturing her will keep Jun Linyuan from taking action. Father, what's wrong with that? The king thought to himself. Normally, I wouldn't think much of it, but things are different now. Feng Wu is. Father, Feng Wu has to die. Raoshi screamed at the top of her lungs. Her head kept banging on the ground, and soon, blood covered her forehead. It was a ghastly sight. Normally, the king wouldn't have let his daughter do such a thing, but now, he was staring at Princess Raoshi with a cold look in his eyes. The queen looked from the king to Princess Raoshi. Somehow she felt uneasy. The king sighed and said to Princess Raoshi, so apart from trying to kill Feng Wu, you also wanted to kill me, didn't you? He had almost been tricked by Raoshi and forgotten about her most fundamental mistake. Princess Raoshi shook her head repeatedly. Her pale face looked so harmless, but the king didn't give her a chance to explain herself. Instead he summoned Zhao. Soon, little Dian, who worked in the royal study, Lady Mei, and all her servants entered the hall. Seeing this group of people, Princess Raoshi didn't seem pleased. As expected, her father knew. Princess Raoshi remained calm, but the queen was panic-stricken. Princess Raoshi threw a dirty look at her, telling her to calm down. The queen wanted to calm down as well, but she couldn't. That was the crime of trying to murder a king. The king stared at Princess Raoshi. I'm giving you one last chance. You'd better tell me yourself. You know what will happen if I reveal the truth. Raoshi looked up at the king and asked a completely unrelated question. Father, you won't do anything to Feng Wu, will you? Although the king didn't answer, Princess Raoshi wasn't stupid. She knew that her father wouldn't touch Feng Wu. She smiled bitterly. Father, why? Why? Is she that likable? The king thought, that's right. Feng Wu is the patriarch's favorite. It didn't matter if he liked Feng Wu or not. The patriarch liked her. He was the ruler of the kingdom, but the patriarch was the real leader behind everything. He could make anyone the king. That was just how things worked. Princess Raoshi smiled bitterly. Father, it's Feng Wu. I found out everything. Feng Wu had the study set on fire on purpose. And she was the one who sold the medicine to Lady May. She has poisoned you so badly. Father, please believe me. Chapter 3902. Chapter 3902. The End of Princess Rao 3. Chapter 3902. The End of Princess Rao 3. The king shook his head sadly. He had given Raoshi a chance, but she wouldn't take it. Seeing the look on the king's face, Princess Raoshi knew that something was wrong. At that moment she mentioned the patriarch again. Father, you can listen to Feng Wu's slander and believe that I poisoned you. You can even believe her and kill your daughter. But father, I'm not only Princess Raoshi. I'm also the closest person to the patriarch. She gritted her teeth and stared at the king. Father, can you bring yourself to upset the patriarch? Since she had lied, there was no reason not to keep lying. She gritted her teeth. Father, it's my birthday today, and I've received the primary heaven pill from the patriarch. Staring at the emperor, she used all her strength. Father, don't you want to know how much I'll grow after taking the pill? This is the pill. Princess Raoshi took out a red pill the size of a pigeon's egg and showed it to the king. I have it now. I'm the most important person to the patriarch. Father, please don't upset him. The king gave her a "you idiot" look and didn't know what to say. He used to believe what Raoshi said, but after this episode, what more could he believe? The queen forced herself to calm down. That was right. The primary heaven pill. As long as she mentioned the patriarch. Before, whenever they ran into trouble, the king wouldn't hold them accountable as long as the patriarch was mentioned. So this time. But she was disappointed this time because the king gave her a strange look and only asked, "Is this the primary heaven pill?" Raoshi raised the pill over her head and nodded solemnly. Yes, this is the pill the master gave me. However, the king snorted. Princess Raoshi's heart sank when she saw this. Something didn't feel right. The king smirked. Raoshi, since you were little, how many times have you used the patriarch to intimidate me? Are you still going to lie to me? Princess Raoshi asked. Father? The king said TTQ a fake in MPL. Princess Raoshi stared at him in astonishment. The king smirked and said, the primary heaven pill is fake. Seeing how confident the king was, Princess Raoshi was uneasy. Had some slut heard her talking to her mother and told her father? However, what the king said next almost killed Princess Raoshi. He said coldly, because the patriarch has given the pill to someone else. Princess Raoshi was astonished. Her head went blank, and she almost couldn't think straight. No, her father had to be bluffing. That had to be it. At that thought, she forced herself to calm down and forced a smile. Father, you're so funny. Lady May and the others all dropped to their knees and lowered their heads, as if they didn't exist. But they didn't miss a word. They were shocked as if they had heard some incredible secret. Chapter 3903. Chapter 3903. The End of Princess Rao 4. Chapter 3903. The End of Princess Rao 4. As expected, the king said coldly, I'm not joking. I saw with my own eyes that the patriarch gave the pill to someone else, and you. Seeing that Princess Raoshi's expression was cracking, the king didn't feel anything for her. He said, you were scrubbing the floor in the tower. Wasn't that true? Princess Raoshi felt as if she had been struck by lightning. Her father saw it. He saw it. For a moment, Princess Raoshi blanched, but she soon blushed. The king kept his gaze on her. Your primary heaven pill is fake, and so is the patriarch's favor for you. Raoshi, you're such a poser. You fooled me and everyone else in the Northern Yin Kingdom. The king had planned to show Princess Raoshi some respect, but what she did crossed the line, so he didn't show her any mercy. Princess Raoshi shuddered when she heard those words. The king thought she would stop, but she didn't. She was absent-minded for a brief moment, but soon returned to normal. She only smiled and said, Father, you're mistaken. I did some cleaning in the tower, but that was because the patriarch was teaching me a powerful technique, so I needed to work on it first. According to the patriarch, a great task is bound to befall a person first. What a sharp-minded, tenacious, and resolute girl. Not many people could do that. The king was almost impressed. Still, she had crossed the line. It's not a big deal that you tried to kill Feng Wu. After all, she's not dead. It's not a big deal for you to pretend that the patriarch dotes on you. The look in Emperor Yan's eyes grew colder. But you should never have tried to kill the king. Of course, the princess wouldn't admit it. She kept kowtowing. Father, I didn't. She was already bleeding a lot. And she looked like she was going to collapse at any moment. However, with all the evidence, no matter how hard Princess Raoshi tried, it wouldn't work. When Lady Mei and her maids all pointed at Princess Raoshi, there was no way that she could get away. Out, all of you! With a wave of the king's hand, the others left. Meanwhile, Princess Raoshi sat on the ground in a trance-like state. Her father had exposed her disguise in front of so many people. He was so relentless. He had destroyed all her pride. The king walked up to Princess Raoshi and looked down at her. Princess Raoshi smiled bitterly. Father, are you going to kill me? The king crouched down in front of Princess Raoshi and brushed away a lock of hair on her forehead. He said sympathetically, "You're my favorite daughter." After a pause, he sighed, "You're supposed to be my favorite heir to the throne. Why are you in such a rush? If I'm dead, you can have the throne." An idea struck her. It seemed that she was still useful to her father, and he wouldn't kill her just yet. As expected, the king said, "You have two choices. First, you'll marry Night Owl, the crown prince of the Dongxing kingdom. Or, you can marry Feng Sun, the son of Feng Xiangnan of the Zhenwu Empire." Chapter 3904. Chapter 3904. The Patriarch's Gift 1. Chapter 3904. The Patriarch's Gift 1. The king stared at Princess Raoshi. "That's the only thing you can do for the Northern Yin Kingdom. Think about it and tell me." But Princess Raoshi suddenly asked, "What if I want to take the third option?" The king frowned at her. Princess Raoshi said, "What if I want to marry Jun Linyuan?" The king had the biggest frown on his face. He shook his head. "No," Princess Raoshi said seriously, "but I want to marry Jun Linyuan, and that's the only way I can be of use to the Northern Yin Kingdom." However, the king cut her off before she could finish. "You'll destroy the Northern Yin Kingdom." The king waved his hand. "Not Jun Linyuan. Never." Princess Raoshi asked, "Why? Even if I can't be his wife, I'll still want to be his concubine. Father, can I even do that?" The king thought that when Jun Linyuan became the emperor one day, he would have a lot of concubines. Therefore, it wouldn't be a bad idea for Raoshi to become one. If that was the case, his relationship with Feng Wu would be even closer. That would be a good thing, wouldn't it? Seeing that her father didn't turn her down right away, Princess Raoshi had an idea. When she tried to compete for the throne, she had been trying to win the Dongxing kingdom to her side, so that she could resist the Zhenwu Empire. However, if she had to choose a husband, it would only take her a split second to make the right choice. Jun Linyuan and Gui Tsulai will fight in the imperial capital tomorrow. She narrowed her eyes. "Father, don't worry. I'll make Jun Linyuan take responsibility for me. When he has to marry me. A concubine." Of course, Princess Raoshi wouldn't want to be a concubine. As for Feng Wu, hadn't her father taken a fancy to her? Jun Linyuan would never want Feng Wu again after everything was done. At that thought, she smirked inwardly. But the king didn't think about that. He only wanted to make good use of the last bit of value of Raoshi. The father and daughter had different thoughts, and neither could guess the others. Meanwhile, Feng Wu asked the patriarch to give her friends some gifts. There was only one primary heaven pill, and the patriarch couldn't do anything about it. However, after all these years, the old man had a lot of good stuff on him. Especially Nen-Kame Ko-Lorgm weapons. Hence, Feng Wu fetched a pair of shoes for Feng Sun, known as the Flying Wind Boots. Once he put it on, he could travel as fast as the wind, and he could disappear in a split second. That's a semi-divine weapon. Feng Wu was astonished as well. That was so valuable. That's very generous of you. Feng Wu looked at the patriarch in amazement. Patriarch Huyan said grumpily, "He's your brother, isn't he?" He's taken care of you for so many years, so why can't I give him something nice? If my master wants to give him a gift, it has to be a divine weapon. The mention of his master brought tears to his eyes again. Just then, Feng Sun ran back in excitement. To be more precise, he had slided into the room. Those boots felt like they had wheels. Feng Sun was so excited that his cheeks flushed and his eyes twinkled. These shoes are amazing. Feng Sun grabbed Feng Wu's hands, his eyes twinkling in excitement. My speed has doubled. Chapter 3905. Chapter 3905. All Senior Brothers 1. Chapter 3905. All Senior Brothers 1. Grabbing Feng Wu, Feng Sun's eyes lit up in excitement. My speed has increased exponentially. Feng Wu said. I see. Feng Sun grabbed Huyanichen's hand in excitement. Did you see that? My speed has doubled. Huyanichen stared at him jealously and pouted. Feng Sun then went to the prince in excitement. My shoes. Did you see that? OMC. The prince looked away in frustration. Feng Sun turned around in excitement and dashed off, shouting at the eagle. Catch me if you can. The eagle didn't want to talk to the dumb teenager at all. However, Feng Sun rushed to its side and patted it on the head when he ran past it. Silly bird. The eagle lost its temper right away, and it was so angry that it flapped its wings. It didn't mind nicknames, but this dumb teenager had just called it a silly bird. That was unacceptable. Stop right there. Hence, the teenager and the eagle began to chase each other around the tower, which gave Feng Wu a headache. She had no idea where Feng Sun got his charm from, but ever since he entered the tower, he got along well with the silly eagle in no time. Even Patriarch Huyan didn't find him repulsive. Instead, he had left a good impression on Feng Sun and gave him a pair of incredible shoes. Feng Wu gave the patriarch a wry smile. That's what Feng Sun's like. Please don't mind him. Seeing Feng Sun's nimble figure, the patriarch looked nostalgic. He even smiled a little. He was thinking about someone from the past. He used to be like this, said Patriarch Huyan. Feng Wu asked curiously, who? Patriarch Huyan said, you fourth. He suddenly changed the subject, waved his hand and stopped talking. Seeing that Huyanichen and the prince were envious, Feng Wu decided to give them something nice as well. Huyanichen received a pair of gloves. It was a pair of insulation gloves, which would help him greatly in forging weapons. Huyanichen was so happy that he almost got as excited as Feng Sun. As for the prince, he had obtained a concealed weapon tube. It wasn't as good as Feng Wu's arm of discipline, but it was a simplified version that could be hidden in his sleeve and used as a secret weapon. The prince cared about his safety the most, so this tube would be of great help to him. Thank you, sixth senior brother, Feng Wu said quietly to Patriarch Huyan. Patriarch Huyan waved his hand and said indifferently, I've been forging these little gadgets for the past few years, just to pass the time. And I've always thought that no one would be lucky enough to have them. I didn't know that. He gave Feng Wu a strange look. But ever since you came, you've brought these three with you. They're all very talented good kids, and that's very hard to come by. After that, he gave Feng Wu an even stranger look, which gave Feng Wu the creeps. Feng Wu stumbled back. What are you looking at? Patriarch Huyan rubbed Feng Wu's head affectionately. Kiddo, you're so lucky. You had 6 senior brothers in your previous life, and now, you have so many nice brothers. That's so rare. Feng Wu loved it when other people said that she was lucky, but she was more curious now. 6 senior brothers? Are you saying that I have 6 senior brothers? Patriarch Huyan said, Of course. Feng Wu asked curiously, Are there only senior brothers? Do I have any senior sisters? Chapter 3906, Chapter 3906, All Senior Brothers 2. Chapter 3906, All Senior Brothers 2. Patriarch Huyan jabbed a finger into Feng Wu's head. Of course not. Are you not happy with your 6 senior brothers? Feng Wu chuckled. 6 senior brothers are perfect, but I don't know the other 5 yet. But the patriarch wasn't going to tell her. But Feng Wu was so curious. 6th senior brother. Are you the only one who wants to know me? Feng Wu feigned a pitiful tone and looked at Patriarch Huyan. Patriarch Huyan immediately said, "How dare they? Our master will cut their legs off." Feng Wu tugged at his sleeve. But why won't they come to find me? I don't even know who or where they are. Please just tell me." Patriarch Huyan scratched his head. He wanted to tell her, but heaven's secrets couldn't be divulged. The phoenix had been following the girl around and hadn't revealed anything. Therefore, Patriarch Huyan wasn't going to reveal anything either. However, he gave a hint. "I'm the youngest of your senior brothers, but I'm still the patriarch of the Northern Yin Kingdom. If your other senior brothers are still alive, they'll be even more capable." Feng Wu's eyes lit up. That was right. Patriarch Huyan glanced at Feng Wu and said, "Just think about that." Feng Wu's eyes lit up, and she cried out in surprise. So can I guess it that way? The other 5 senior brothers are all at your level?" Patriarch Huyan said, "As long as they're not dead, they have to be." Feng Wu asked, "Could they be dead?" Patriarch Huyan snorted. "Good people don't live long, and disasters last for 1,000 years. What do you think?" It then occurred to Feng Wu that her senior brothers didn't get along well with each other. That was why her 6th senior brother didn't say anything nice about the others. But that was enough for Feng Wu to guess. "So, my 3rd senior brother is the counselor of the Dongseng Kingdom, isn't he?" Feng Wu smiled at Master Huyan. Patriarch Huyan looked at Feng Wu, obviously surprised by her question. "How did you know that?" he cried out. Hence, Feng Wu told Patriarch Huyan about how she knew the White Fairy. Only then did Patriarch Huyan realize what had happened. That's right. That princess used to be his fiancée, but something happened, so I didn't know that she was so infatuated. He's indeed in the Dongseng Kingdom, Patriarch Huyan told Feng Wu. Moreover, he has a great treasure, which was left behind by my master. He's been keeping it for you. Feng Wu's eyes twinkled, and she sounded excited when she asked, "6th senior brother, are you saying that my 3rd senior brother also has something valuable that can make my cultivation level rise?" Feng Wu was so excited that she was almost in tears. The primary heaven pill had helped her a lot this time. It had helped her rise to the peak of the spiritual overlord stage and enabled her to refine her marrow. That was incredible. It would take her years to cultivate on her own. Is that it? Am I right? Feng Wu followed the patriarch around and asked. Chapter 3907, Chapter 3907, The Battle Won. Chapter 3907, The Battle Won. However, Patriarch Huyan said, "My master didn't tell us what it was when he gave us the treasure." He sounded jealous when he said that. "Of the 6 boys, my master likes my 3rd senior brother the best, so of course, he'll keep something at least as valuable as the primary heaven pill." Feng Wu didn't know how to comfort the patriarch when she saw how disappointed he was. She had thought that he was just an old crybaby, but as it turned out, he was also a jealous old man. Feng Wu was cracking up inwardly and had to fight back her laughter. In the end, she asked a question. "By the way, 6th senior brother, have you heard of the broken star pieces?" "Broken star pieces?" Patriarch Huyan tilted his head and frowned. "That sounds so familiar." Feng Wu was thrilled. Sound familiar? He must have heard about it before then. She had almost finished collecting the 2nd broken star piece and was only waiting for the 3rd one. Patriarch Huyan suddenly stared at Feng Wu. Puzzled, Feng Wu asked hesitantly, "What's wrong?" Patriarch Huyan scratched his head. "I heard one of the senior brothers mention it once. I think your 3rd senior brother is holding a broken star piece." "What?" Feng Wu grabbed him and almost jumped to her feet. What did you say?" Patriarch Huyan didn't expect the girl to be so excited, and he almost jumped. "Is it really a broken star piece? Tell me." Feng Wu almost tore his sleeve off. Patriarch Huyan didn't know why the girl was so excited, but it meant that it was very important to her. He gave it more thought and said in frustration, "It's been so long that I can't remember. But I think so." Feng Wu let out a breath of relief. She had been worried about where to find the 3rd broken star piece after she found the 2nd. According to the patriarch, Her third senior brother had it now. That would make things a lot easier. After she was done with the Northern Yin Kingdom, she had to go to the Dongseng Kingdom, talk to her third senior brother, and get the broken star piece. Feng Wu wasn't worried that her third senior brother wouldn't give her the broken star piece, but she was worried that she wouldn't be able to find him. According to the White Fairy, he would cultivate in seclusion for 30 to 50 years on end. Feng Wu grew anxious at that thought. She decided that she would set out for the Peace Grassland and enter the Dongseng Kingdom as soon as Jun Linyuan and Gui Tsulai finished their competition. At that moment, the giant eagle flew back. Master, Master, Gui Tsulai is kneeling outside. He wants to see you. The giant eagle looked curiously at Patriarch Huyen, wondering if he would see Gui Tsulai this time. Gui Tsulai? Feng Wu's eyes lit up. Wasn't he the one who was going to compete with Jun Linyuan tomorrow? What was he doing here? Feng Wu was about to ask that question. The giant eagle suddenly said, "He's very sincere. He's been coming here every year for the past 10 years. What's he doing here?" Feng Wu asked curiously. The giant eagle said, "He's here to ask for a sword every year for the past 10 years. The patriarch said that he would consider it if Gui Tsulai did that and reached a certain cultivation level." Chapter 3908. Chapter 3908. The Battle 2. Chapter 3908. The Battle 2. Hinvi. Feng Wu looked curiously at the giant eagle. It didn't say nice things about people for no reason, unless. The eagle grinned at Feng Wu. Look at that grin. The eagle must be doing this, because that man had given it some sort of reward. Feng Wu tugged at the patriarch's sleeve and looked eagerly at him. By now, he was very familiar with Feng Wu's petty tricks, and he found the girl as lovely as ever. Hence, he looked affectionately at Feng Wu and rubbed her little head. "Sixth senior brother, is he really here for a sword?" Feng Wu asked in a low voice. Patriarch Huyen nodded. "He's been asking for it for 10 years. That's very sincere of him, and he's quite talented in swordplay." Well, the eagle then let a swordsman in with a bamboo hat on his head. Feng Wu had seen Gui Tsulai fighting Jun Linyuan on the mountain peak, and saw that Jun Linyuan had gained the upper hand, so she was a little relieved. Gui Tsulai, the prince and Huyen didn't dare to move when they saw who it was. They both stood ramrod straight. Feng Sun wasn't as lively as before. Right now, he narrowed his eyes and looked at Gui Tsulai cautiously. Although Gui Tsulai kept his gaze on Patriarch Huyen, he was surprised to see the others out of the corner of his eye. It had been years since any outsiders visited the patriarch. Why was it so crowded now? However, he didn't think much of these people. He went straight to Patriarch Huyen and greeted him. Patriarch Huyen's eyes lit up when he saw Gui Tsulai. "Your cultivation level has risen again." Gui Tsulai might look like an unapproachable swordsman, but when he was around Patriarch Huyen, he seemed to admire the latter. He was thrilled every time Patriarch Huyen praised him. His cultivation level had risen again? Feng Wu wasn't so sure anymore. What would happen if Jun Linyuan fought him tomorrow? Next to her, Patriarch Huyen smiled at Feng Wu. "He's a pretty good swordsman. How about I let him teach you?" Gui Tsulai couldn't help but give Feng Wu a curious look. He had never met anyone who could make the old man treat her so nicely. Feng Wu pursed her lips and shook her head. "No." The patriarch smiled. "We'll talk about it later then. You can start any time you want." Gui Tsulai couldn't help but glance at Feng Wu again. Someone in the Northern Yin Kingdom had said no to the patriarch? Who was she? The patriarch said, "You've been asking for a sword for 10 years. That's very rare. Eagle, bring me the invincible sword." The invincible sword? That sounded awesome. The eagle soon went into the armory, where the weapons were stored after the patriarch forged them. The bad ones would be reforged, and the good ones would be left behind. So far, there were only 3 of them. How did Feng Wu know that? Because the eagle told her that after she followed it into the warehouse. Seeing the 3 swords hanging on the wall, Feng Wu said, "The patriarch didn't tell you which one to take." The eagle gave Feng Wu a suspicious look. "The best sword, of course." After that, it reached for the sword. "Hey, wait. Wait! Feng Wu stopped the eagle. The eagle turned around and looked at Feng Wu in bewilderment. What's wrong? Feng Wu was hesitating if she should stop the bird. Jun Linyuan and Gui Tsulai were going to have a battle. Gui Tsulai had made some progress in his cultivation. With the help of the sword, he would have a higher chance of winning. Should she stop him? Chapter 3909. Chapter 3909. Should she stop him? Chapter 3909. Should she stop him? Should she stop the eagle? Meanwhile, the giant eagle was still praising the sword. Gui Tsulai has made some progress in his cultivation to begin with, and now, he has this heaven demon sword. TSK, no one on this continent will be his match in the future. Feng Wu stared at the eagle. Only then did the giant eagle notice the change in Feng Wu's expression, and it said innocently, "Hey, what's wrong? You've been pulling a long face since we walked in." Feng Wu snorted and looked away. The giant eagle finally realized that something was wrong. It ran up to Feng Wu, but Feng Wu turned away again. It ran up to Feng Wu, who turned around again. No matter how dumb the giant eagle was, it could tell that something was wrong. What happened? Who upset you? I'll beat them up for you. Crossing her arms, Feng Wu glanced at him. It's you. The giant eagle panicked a little. Me? What did I do? How dare I? Feng Wu said, yes, it's you. The giant eagle panicked even more. What did I do? What did I do? No one dares to pick on you. My master will roast me if I do that. Feng Wu almost burst out laughing, but she managed to keep her face straight. You took my favorite heaven demon sword, and you're giving it away. Why do you think I'm upset? Is it your favorite sword? The giant eagle thought. You're making it up. It's not your favorite sword. Do you know what it's called before I tell you? Feng Wu nodded. That's right. As soon as I saw it, I thought it would suit me the best. I just want it. The giant eagle looked at Feng Wu in resignation. Do you really like it? Feng Wu said, I do. The giant eagle glanced at her. You should have told me. I'll give it to you. Feng Wu asked, are you sure about that? The giant eagle said grumpily, of course. You're my master's favorite, and he'll give you anything you want. If he won't give it to you, you can say something nice, and he'll give in. Feng Wu cleared her throat uneasily. The giant eagle said, why are you coughing? It's like I said something wrong. Feng Wu cleared her throat uneasily. The giant eagle said, that's why I'm giving you this heaven demon sword. Gui Tsulai can have another one. The Star Peak sword is a nice one too. Although it's not a semi-divine one, it's still much better than his one strike. The eagle then turned to leave. But the giant eagle gave it some thought and said, that heaven demon sword is the most suitable for Gui Tsulai's martial art. The first thing my master said when he made it was that it would suit Gui Tsulai. The eagle was ready to leave after that. Holding the heaven demon sword, Feng Wu suddenly felt very guilty. Gui Tsulai was a real swordsman, and the heaven demon sword suited his martial arts. If she tried to sabotage his plan, she would be exploiting her sixth senior brother's favor. Feng Wu had a strange feeling about it. Was it wise for her to help Jun Linyuan like this? Was it what Jun Linyuan would want? If she had been the one fighting, and her opponent's weapon had been swapped for something less suitable, no, her pride wouldn't allow her to do such a thing. What about Jun Linyuan? Feng Wu was reminded of that proud, elegant teenager. He was so proud. If even she couldn't bring herself to do it, how could he? Fine. Feng Wu tossed the sword to the eagle. Chapter 3910. Chapter 3910. My pride 1T allow it. Chapter 3910. My pride 1T allow it. The giant eagle was confused. What? Feng Wu said grumpily. If it's his most suitable sword, give it to him. The giant eagle was confused. Are you sure? Feng Wu said. Yes. Just take it away. It'll only get in my way. The giant eagle scratched its head in resignation. It couldn't understand what the woman was doing. If she didn't want to give the sword to Gui Tsulai, she could have taken it away. Why did she give it back? The bird couldn't understand it. The giant eagle asked Feng Wu over and over again, but Feng Wu said she didn't want it. Only then did the eagle bring the sword to Gui Tsulai. Seeing that Gui Tsulai had taken the sword away, Feng Sun came to Feng Wu in frustration. Are we really going to let him take it? This is bad. Feng Wu immediately asked what was going on. Feng Sun said, when Boss Jun went to take care of the old master of the Zhou family, he did defeat that old man. But he was injured as well, and his sky destroyer was damaged. Feng Wu glared at Feng Sun. Why didn't you say so earlier? Feng Sun said, I didn't want to ruin Boss Jun's reputation, so I didn't tell you that he was injured. Feng Wu snapped. You idiot. I'm so mad. Where is Jun Linyuan now? Take me to him. Feng Sun mumbled. Feng Wu didn't hear him, so she raised her voice and asked, what did you say? Feng Sun mumbled. After he was injured, he wrote me a letter and told me to take it to Northern Yan's king, so that he could protect you for the time being. After that, he went to a secret place to cultivate. If I knew where he was, I would have taken you with me. This is a great chance for you to work on your relationship. Feng Wu didn't know what to say. She rolled her eyes at Feng Sun. Feng Sun mumbled, isn't it? He was injured trying to save you, and his sword is broken. Don't you feel sorry for him? Don't you want to look after him? Feng Wu didn't know what to say. Feng Sun said, you've been doing a great job hiding all this time. Even someone as capable as Boss Jun couldn't find you. He said that you were as good at hiding underground as a mole. Feng Wu retorted in a low voice. I'm not like a mole. Feng Sun said, those people were busy chasing you, and Boss Jun was busy chasing them. By the way, there was the fifth daughter of the Hua family. Feng Wu said, that's right. I've seen her. She and Rashi tried to kill me. Feng Sun nodded. Boss Jun only found out that Rashi was after you after he caught that girl. But don't worry. You'll never see her again. Feng Wu asked, is she dead? That girl had only made one appearance so far. Feng Sun nodded. That's right. She wanted to kill you, so of course, Boss Jun wouldn't let her live. The Hua family is in Flower Valley, isn't it? Boss Jun has taken care of that place as well. Why do you think Boss Jun was so badly injured? After handling the Zhou family, he dragged his injured body back to Flower Valley and wiped out the entire Hua family. He has cut off the right arm of all their capable cultivators. Feng Wu was astonished. While she was running away with the Gao family, Jun Linyuan had done so many things for her. He had challenged all those families in turn. How could he do that? He's still injured. Does he want to die? Feng Wu stomped her foot in frustration. Can't he take care of his own injury first? You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.